Hello, hello. Oh, that's too loud. Sorry there, chat. Wait for some people to pile in here. See if anyone's around. I'm streaming a lot later than I usually do, so probably not going to be too many people. Perhaps I will save the video react for a little later in the stream. For now, I'll just play a little bit of Magic to fill the time. Hello, Dead Omega. How's it going? Just play one match of Magic here. Yep, just started the stream a couple minutes ago. I'm just gonna do a little bit of Magic while we're here to wait for some people to load into the stream before I do the react. Oh, looks like people are started showing up actually. Sound off in the chat if you're here. Hello, everyone. Yeah, we can just play a best of one here. Play some of the best deck in the game. A little something for us to look at. You just finished watching the video? Nice, that's perfect. That's the exact thing I want. I want people to watch the video and then jump in here if they got any questions or anything we want to do. I'm going to do a little review of both my video and MBT's video. I'm going to take a look at it and just go through kind of the points that I made in my video and kind of the tone that I wanted to set with it. I think I did an alright job with it, but there were some things that I got some good comments with some stuff that I feel like I could have clarified better. MBT did comment that he wanted to include actual game in his video, but it was delayed massively already, so he playing the gameplay was already outdated. I don't know, I kind of feel like it's fine if it's outdated. Like, it doesn't have to be from the modern format, as long as it kind of shows, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Gameplay has been pretty similar over most of its, like, most of the modern lifetime ever since Lynx came out. It's been relatively samey, so I don't think it's, like, a huge deal if it's different. Okay, well, that works for me, I guess. Quick little win here. I mean, I can see that obviously the video took a long time to make and was worth, you know, he put a lot of effort into it. Stream time, I don't understand Magic, so I'm just watching for the pretty colors and lights. Well, hopefully you'll stick around for the commentary because Magic is out and Yu-Gi-Oh! Is in. At least watching MBT's video, which I will be pulling up here so we can take a look. That was also kind of my stance. At worst, 2023 game is not that much of a difference. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's that big of a difference. Like, the actual specific cards will be different, but that really shouldn't matter that much, especially because it's a tutorial. You want it to last for years and years. It's going to get outdated eventually anyway. Apparently, my name on YouTube live streams is never my actual channel name. Might actually be the first time. Huh. Strange. I didn't know what would do that. I figured it'd be the same. Anyway, whilst we're all here, let's get started on this MBT video, shall we? Make sure everything's all set up properly, put it to normal speed. I watch my videos at 2x speed sometimes, so we'll go here to the intro and I'll do a live react like a real YouTuber would, or streamer, or whatever you like to call it. But yeah, if you guys haven't seen my video talking about this MBT tutorial video and about, in general, like Yu-Gi-Oh! Tutorials on the internet, I did a decent amount of research on YouTube, and of course I've already played through like the games and stuff and seen all the tutorials there, so I feel pretty safe in my stance here that like there's no tutorial that I found satisfying. So yeah, I actually haven't seen the empty video, so nice to catch it here. Yeah, you can always do that too. Watch it here and get an idea of where the ideas for my video came from, because this video is what spurred me to make my video. I've wanted to make a video talking about Yu-Gi-Oh tutorials for a while now, but seeing this how to play Yu-Gi-Oh video and kind of solidified a lot of my opinions on it. So let's get into it.
Let me guess. You saw my last video, picked up a stack of singles, and decided to give Yu-Gi-Oh a spin. You made a mental note that high-level monsters require sacrifices in order to call upon their great power. And you rolled up to your locals or your Polycules game night armed with 3 minutes of knowledge and $8 of cardboard. And you got destroyed.
I will say, this is like a really great place to start your Yu-Gi-Oh tutorial, is like actually showing the audience that you're making the video for, is someone who, you know, watched the basic 3-minute tutorial and then gets into the game and tries to learn it as a new player by doing what probably most new players would do after watching a tutorial for the game, which is to go actually play it. And because of the way Yu-Gi-Oh is played, you know, it's usually you're gonna be going down to a tournament, you're gonna be playing in your local game store against some person you've never met before. It's just the way the Yu-Gi-Oh is. Unless you're playing on Master Duel or online or something, where you're going to have probably a pretty similar experience of just getting completely clapped the first time if you're just going off a basic tutorial.
You watched aghast as your opponent made move after move, wall comboing you into your chair Broly style, far past the point where your Gemini elf would have been any help. You grimaced as they sent monster after monster without any sacrifices whatsoever. And you couldn't believe when the game ended on their very first turn. You couldn't help but think, what happened? Did I miss something in the tutorial? And then, a horrifying realization. What if you...
Here's the thing, you don't miss something in the tutorial, because the tutorial, as he's saying usually here, if it's a 3-minute tutorial, it's just not enough time to teach you how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Which makes sense.
Didn't? What if what you just experienced wasn't the result of an SEO-driven lie I perpetuated? What if this was how every game played out? How and why would anyone ever enjoy this? Well, don't worry. I'll tell you.
Keep this in mind for later.
The Yu-Gi-Oh you inferred is dead, if it ever even really existed at all. And from the sun-bleached bones of a...
See, here's the thing. Sometimes in MBT videos, I notice that he has this vibe that the playground Yu-Gi-Oh was never really real because it wasn't around for that long. But that's just like casual Yu-Gi-Oh. It doesn't matter what level of the game it is. If you have links or synchros or XEs or whatever, like you can always play Yu-Gi-Oh on that casual level with Gemini Alpha or whatever. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. It's just not the most common way Yu-Gi-Oh has ever probably been played.
Marketing tool designed for babies over the course of a weekend has sprouted new flesh in never-ending fractals, building upon themselves, a divinity of the complex, a mass of corner cases and contradictions, not unlike your own transformation to adulthood.
I mean, this video work is incredible, by the way.
A culture in cardboard,
just the way the VHS and everything
on TCG Player. Explaining why people choose to play this game above all others is remarkably similar to explaining how to play it. I can give you a glib, unsatisfactory answer. People play Yu-Gi-Oh because there's nothing like it, but that'll likely be about as helpful as the 3-minute overview you just sat through. So today, I'm going to try to teach you both. What follows is an incredibly long and detailed primer on the idiosyncrasies of the card game, alongside an incredibly long and detailed love letter to the people, events, and mythologies that are just as important. My hope is by the end of this video, you'll not only be an expert at Yu-Gi-Oh!, you'll be a fan.
Nick has a good point here from the chat where he's saying that this video is very front-loaded with historical information, which I think is a fine way to do it, but not great for a tutorial. You usually want to put the tutorial part first and then explain it, but he wants to kind of get you into the mythology of Yu-Gi-Oh! Before explaining the way it works, so you have a bit of something to latch onto, which makes a bit of sense to me. But also like, yeah, it feels like a much better as a history video, although it still skips over a lot of stuff that I think is pretty relevant to the history. It talks a lot more about like the YouTube history and the culture history, which is still important, but actual like what happens in Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't get talked about that much. Thank you so much, Pastor, for casual play. Yeah, casual play, like casual players, like they just will exist no matter how you design your game. Like just whatever the natural casual experience is for someone just trying for the first time is what casual play will be. So, and dismissing it as like not a thing that exists is probably something Yu-Gi-Oh should try to stay away from.
Let's begin at the beginning. Yu-Gi-Oh began in 1996 as a smash hit in Shonen Jump. It told the story of a young boy, Yugi, possessed through the Millennium Puzzle with the spirit of an ancient Egyptian
We will get
pharaoh.
more into the tutorial part being that later, but now we're going to have to go through the
and would assist Yu-Gi-Oh
beginning
and his
here.
friends
But
through penalty games, in which ne'er-do-wells would find
these
themselves
explanations at the
risk of
beginning here, I do
losing
think are pretty
their
good.
lives at his
I like the
hands.
very beginning of this video a
These
lot.
games were gory, gruesome, and usually ended with Yugi's victory. Then one week, as part of an ongoing storyline where Yugi and his pals were stuck in a death machine, the Pharaoh challenged his rival.
That's true. The lore doesn't really matter for a how-to-play video. That's why I feel like the title for this video is very
intended to be a
off
send-up
to
of
me.
Magic the Gathering, this card game was a hastily produced mechanism to tell a story.
It's a lot of the reason why
combining
Yu-Gi-Oh is
both elements
cool,
from
but in a
popular
how-to-play,
games as well as
doesn't make
tabletops,
tons
both
of
which
sense.
were favorites of its author, Kazuki Takahashi. After publication of this chapter, everything changed. For some reason, audiences loved Magic and Wizards and demanded more of it. The manga pivoted. It was drastic.
Keep in mind the way he says "for some reason." Like this is what we're here to learn in the video, right? You're supposed to explain why people find it interesting, not just that they did, right? That's kind of what the history documentary is for. Is explaining why people like it. It's something that comes more in the video. We'll see it later.
Retooled, and rather than the story of the Pharaoh's penalty games, it became the story of Duel Monsters, a game of ancient and terrible power.
A great transition,
manga,
by the way.
Followed by
the manga
anime,
won't
were
always translate to an incredible anime, but this one
successes.
obviously
Then
did.
they made it stateside to become even more popular. If any of you are familiar with the show, you're probably also familiar with its central problem. Early on, there aren't
Really good comment here from Alex. It's about Yu-Gi-Oh having a casual format. That is a video I've had in my mind for a long time. Does Yu-Gi-Oh need like a casual commandery format to help players learn the game? Kind of something that would be interesting.
really a well-defined set of
Celtic
rules
Guardian
for
format.
the game.
Could
Cards
be
are
something
played, and they
interesting.
generally do things.
Having
but
an
those
easier
things
format
vary
would certainly
wildly
help
from
new
episode
Yu-Gi-Oh
to
players.
episode. Parallel to the manga's attempts to find its footing were toy manufacturers' attempts to build a card game from scratch that could be played in the same way as characters that seemed to mostly be making it up as they go. It took a couple of tries, but eventually,
Is there a cat? This is just how the
Konami
video
was
sounds.
able to
I
pioneer
don't know
a
where
way for
MBT
people
is,
to
but
pay for cardboard.
must be some animal there
The
or
release
something.
of Yu-Gi-Oh, as we know it, coincided with the second season of the anime, in which one of the characters releases in
That's what
universe
Genesis is supposed to
the
be?
advanced rule
Genesis is still way too
Basically,
fast for a new
we
player.
started
It's
playing as soon
slower,
as they did.
but you
From
still
the
have
get,
all
things
of
were
the same
sloppy.
powerful cards,
At
Ash and
base, Duel
Nibiru
Monsters
and
was
combos.
ripping off Magic
It's not
the
that
Gathering.
different from
So adapting
standard.
the game
It is
to
different, but
something
not like a world's
reminiscent
different.
of the granddaddy of card games, distinct enough to avoid liability, and most importantly, functional, was a challenge. Early Yu-Gi-Oh! And a rules committee managed by American distributor Upper Deck Entertainment
playground version of
did the
Yu-Gi-Oh!
best
never
they
represented
could
what the
to
game
make
is
a
like.
product that was beloved in its own
I mean,
right.
it's all representation. Yu-Gi-Oh! Isn't just one thing.
Phenomenon, all the
Played
way
by
to
lots
the
of
end
people.
of the anime's run. Once Yugi and his friends' adventures came to a close, a significant amount of duelists sealed their binders away with the Pharaoh's memories. A new series debuted that felt a little more kid-friendly.
Jason has a great comment here. In a fighting game, you learn to mash, and then you play against someone who's better, and they combo you to death. But your opponent can go easier on you by just like not performing that combo. How do you go easy on someone in Yu-Gi-Oh? Like if I'm playing like Malice into someone, am I just gonna like not combo them? Like am I just gonna set up half of a board? Am I just gonna like lose? Like it's a lot easier in Yu-Gi-Oh. Like it's harder in fighting games to have a way to like, you know, not kill your opponent. What am I trying to say here? It's mostly that like in Yu-Gi-Oh, there's no way in my mind at least to go easier on them other than just like not making the correct play all the time. But this will still be like, it's more about helping the new player rather than actually like just doing less on your half.
New cards failed to make much of a splash,
Genesis is
and
harder
many
to unlock
millennials
to me.
took their leave. By 2008, Yu-Gi-Oh's cultural
Yeah, you won't
influence
find
had
Playground
all but
Yu-Gi-Oh!
evaporated in the
At
States.
your locals,
and
you
the
won't
central
have
conceit
that
of the
casual
then
level.
airing Yu-Gi-Oh!
Not like
5Ds,
Magic, where you have Commander, where you
card
find it
games
everywhere.
on motorcycles became an in-joke between jaded anime viewers. It looked like this once-beloved show would be mostly remembered as a short-lived
Half-ass a board, just like
competitor
build
to
half of a
Pokemon
board.
and not much
I mean, I guess you
else.
could do that,
Except
but like,
for one thing.
does it just make it easier for your opponent to win, or does it actually teach them anything? Because going easier against your opponent in Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't teach them the same way in a fighting
I'm
game,
here
where
with a
going easier, you
veritable
can show
Yu-Gi-Oh!
them
celebrity.
basic combos and how to
Would you
counter
mind
things.
introducing yourself?
Sure. My name's
Casual
Martin
Yu-Gi-Oh! format is
Billany,
Edison.
I'm
I
known
agree.
as
I think
Little
Edison,
Karibo
Goat,
on
and
YouTube and the rest of the internet at this point.
all of those like earlier
and
formats did a
I love
way better job
Yu-Gi-Oh!
teaching new players.
And I've loved Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever since I first watched it on
This part of the video,
telly.
I really have
I
nothing
was
to
trying
complain
tune
about,
in to
like,
watch Pokemon.
this is an
and I
interesting
caught
thing to make a
Yu-Gi-Oh!
video
by
about.
mistake, and I was like, is this Pokemon?
This
No,
doesn't teach
it's
you anything about
something
Yu-Gi-Oh!
else.
though, obviously. It's just
And I fell in love with
talking
it very
about
quickly to the point that
early
I wanted
Yu-Gi-Oh!
to
content.
engage with other fans. And my tendency is to express my love for things by making fun of them, by sort of... I used to write like parody scripts just for myself back in the day.
Yu-Gi-Oh! is literally
and
a
when
zero-sum game.
When I found Yu-Gi-Oh!
Very
I was
true.
like,
I don't think
this
fighting games are
is
zero-sum.
rife for
There's a lot of
parody.
counterplay
It's so
immediately
over the
in a
top.
fighting game when you're playing,
And I
like,
feel like
jabs and
people
you have
who
the chance
would never
to
watch
backstep or
this
block.
unless it was presented to them in a more humorous context. So it was almost my way of trying
Hat
to
format is the third major retro.
engage
Oh,
in
that's
the
true. I
fandom,
forgot about- I
introduce
always forget about
myself to the
hat formats.
fandom,
I do like Hat, though.
also
It's good format.
hopefully get other people to watch Yu-Gi-Oh! Wherein I made a series of videos where I condensed the
I wish
plot
it played
of
a little
every,
slower. I think that's the idea
Yu-Gi-Oh!
behind
episode, or at least to a point.
Genesis.
Down
Slower,
to about 5
modern,
to 10
which
minutes.
is a good idea and
That
something that they should have.
has extended as
But
the series has
it's not
progressed.
like a
but
new player Bastion.
originally, it was about 5 minutes per episode, and it was a
Go format is strange because the rules are really different
comedic
from
take
rules.
on
Yeah,
the
that's true.
events
It
of
is a
the
big
story
difference and
of
makes it
Yu-Gi-Oh!
more difficult. But
Yu-Gi-Oh! The
That's
Abridged
just baked
series was
into
incredibly
Yu-Gi-Oh! being so
influential
different
not
now.
only for Yu-Gi-Oh! players, but also for YouTube. What was it like being around for the early days of the platform?
Gosh, I mean, I think it came out in its infancy. YouTube, at the time, had been around for at least, I want to say, the better part of a year. And I'd wanted to make content for some time, and YouTube was really the first real opportunity for a lot of people to sort of sit down and get their hands dirty and actually make stuff that would be easily accessible. So I think that it was right place, right time for me in a lot of ways. Because a lot of people, there were a lot of people making things with shoestring.
See, like, this is a good
you could
video
tell
about,
that
like,
a lot of
the history of
creators that
Yu-Gi-Oh!
were
stuff,
putting stuff
but
up were just one person.
It's
sort
pretty
of
rambly
riffing
for, like, a
on
how-to video.
concept. It was the Wild West. Anything goes, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged kind of fit neatly.
Would
into
Rush Duel be a
this
better
sort
way?
of
Almost certainly. The
anime-shaped
Genesis?
hole.
Definitely.
There were
Maybe
a lot of
not the
people
GOAT,
uploading
depending on how
anime
much you care about the
content, but I
rules,
don't know how
'cause
many
it's very
people
different there, too.
were uploading consistently sort of a running series of anime-themed comedy videos. And when I first put it out there, I didn't know it was going to be a series. I thought it was just going to be sort of one and done. So it was as much a
got to go to turn
surprise to
6.
me.
That's an interesting
that the YouTube
compromise,
audience
but
and the general
it's a strange
sort
one
of
for sure.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Fandom latched onto it as passionately as they did, and I really do. I really am gobsmacked by it, even to this day. It's so incredible to me that there were people who really got enthusiastic about the fan project. I'm a big proponent of fan-based content. I think fandoms are really creative in what they do, and I was honored to
I
be
agree with
even a
most of the
small
things this
part of
guy's
it.
saying.
Since then, you've become a mainstay among Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans, convention goers, and
21st
online
anniversary.
spaces.
Oh
What
my
has it
God,
been like
I'm old.
realizing the immense impact your work has had on people?
Overall, it's been a little
Network.
overwhelming.
Yes.
I try not to think
Been a
about
long time,
it.
man. Game's old.
I'm a pretty low-key guy. I will admit that the attention I that I gained from it was something I really had to get used to. I started Yu-Gi-Oh! In a time in my life when I didn't have a lot of people. I didn't have a lot of friends, and I gained friendships through doing the parody content.
Don't know why
I
I'm getting
gained
a bridge lore in a
friendships from
Yu-Gi-Oh
talking
story.
about
Yeah,
Yu-Gi-Oh and talking
it's
about these
strange thing to put here.
characters and sharing these
it's
stories
good,
with
but, like,
everybody.
shouldn't
But
this be like a
the
history of Yu-Gi-Oh kind of thing?
popularity
I don't know.
and the attention, definitely not something that I'm a natural with.
Maybe it's because he wanted to explain like why Yu-Gi-Oh is popular, and this is part of the reason.
Present
but
sort of myself as a character almost.
just because
a
people
character
make
version of
online
myself to
fandoms
sort of
around
get through it.
a thing,
but
it's not like
I'm
it helps
always very
Yu-Gi-Oh, but
humbled by it. And,
it's not
and at the
the
end of the
reason
day,
Yu-Gi-Oh was popular, I don't think.
People do come up to me and they say the quotes, and I often get asked, like, do you get tired of it? I never get tired of the passion that people show whenever they do that sort of thing. I
Oh
think
my
it's
God, I
a-
didn't
it's a
realize how
huge
long
compliment.
this
and
goes.
I used to be that guy.
Jeez.
I used to be the guy
This is-
shouting quotes.
How
at
long are we in
people,
here? We're
in
12
class.
minutes in
I would,
the
like,
How
come
to Play
into-
Yu-Gi-Oh,
into school
and we
just
don't
start
have
quoting TV shows I've
any
watched the night
information
before.
about the game at all
And
besides that
it's just an expression of love. It's
one
an
guy
expression
talking
of
and
enthusiasm.
the
and
manga.
I always take it that way. It's when
my
people
gosh, I
talk to me
didn't-
like I am the characters that gets a bit weird.
It's a very
because
long
I'm not
video.
an Egyptian pharaoh.
This
It
isn't
might,
the only time he
surprise
does
you
this,
to
by the
learn
way.
this.
If you haven't seen the video yet, he's going to be
But
talking to a lot
yes,
of other content creators.
I'm very humbled, sometimes overwhelmed.
Maybe this video
but
is too
always
content creator
grateful.
built. Maybe that's part of the reason I didn't feel like it jived at the end.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Was one of the first properties to cultivate
Love the
what
little
we would
stains on the
conceive of
phone
as
screen,
a
by the way.
modern fandom. Let me be clear. It certainly wasn't the first community full of people writing fanfic, building shrines to the characters, and getting in shit fits about who Tristan was supposed to be fucking.
I feel like the luckiest person in the world to have a friend as awesome as you, Tristan.
Did she say friend?
Jeff Leonard is incredible. I love Jeff
Man,
Leonard.
I'm stuck in the friend zone.
But just by virtue of the time period in which it existed, it was able to become one of the first IPs with widespread success across platforms.
Yeah.
Some kids remembered it from television, others may have picked up a Shonen Jump at the Scholastic Book Fair, but popularized by creators like Little Karibo was one of the first enormous online fandoms. The internet was becoming
This is true about a lot of things made in this era. Like he's saying, like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh definitely both benefited from this. And I think by looking at Pokemon, you can kind of see how much Yu-Gi-Oh has potential that was squandered, especially in this time. Like Pokemon is incredibly large. I mean, they're struggling now, if you ask me, but like Pokemon is a large part of all of the money Nintendo has ever made because of how much work they put into it in those early years. And I think Yu-Gi-Oh could have done something similar.
a more impactful driver of real-life culture daily. And in a time before YouTube was the standard for video sharing, people were willing to trek to other homepages and watch some questionably DMCA'd fandubs.
Yeah, it's not like Yu-Gi-Oh
Importantly,
loses players.
this
Yu-Gi-Oh has a
fandom
great
didn't
time
stay
keeping players
online.
around,
While
but in
cultural
terms of getting new
barometers
ones,
like the first use
that's
of
something you're
Uwu
always going to
were
want to have happen.
conceived from a dial-up connection, it translated to a very real presence in real life.
Goodbye.
Cosplayers, writers, and con attendees chanting "Screw the rules, I have money" to thunderous applause, permeating meat space at a time when online fandom had previously been a thing of forums and BBS debates about subs and dubs. This
A good point in the comments here from Alex again. Goat and Edison are good for new players, but you do still have to play against someone who knows what Goat or Edison is. This is why I love Draft for Magic. Like, Draft is a more casual version of the game. You will still play against people who have been playing for much longer, but because it is more of a starting way to play the game, you will regularly see a bunch of new people playing drafts all the time. So it makes it a lot easier to have a starting base where you still have experienced players, but also new players in one group. Pokemon TCG is selling more cards than ever and has been tax printing than it did 4 years ago. Yeah, Pokemon TCG is doing way better because of that. Like how they established early on in those early years, and also how they kept it up and kept going for all that time. Yeah, the selling cards isn't really a good metric to go by. You're not wrong. Like, the scalpers make a big difference, and it's a lot of a big popularity is coming from Pocket and all that stuff, and then cashing out. But like, I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh kind of did this like already for most of its lifetime, and the fact that Pokemon is just now stepping into that place, it's a bit of a different, like, it's a little bit of an apples to orange comparison. But still, it's like Pokemon does really, really well and was showing on anime as one of its most popular things at the same time Yu-Gi-Oh was at a similar level, and there's a pretty big gap in between the two of them.
Community and the dedicated fans and creators within it was sufficient to keep the franchise alive, but hardly
I
thriving.
wonder when this clip is from here.
As GX faded into the distance and millennials became more obsessed with fancy lattes and renting than cardboard,
Also, does he hate
Yu-Gi-Oh
GX?
entered a period
Seems
of
like he thinks
stagnation.
GX was like really, really bad.
Merchandise disappeared from shelves, Tie-ins became fewer and
Selling
farther
well as a
between.
keeping villain.
Huge portions
Probably
of the
not,
ongoing
but
show weren't even being translated or
some
dubbed.
people will stick around
It's
for sure.
hard to explain to today's Zoomerians, who have grown up on a steady diet of Hypeland collaborations. But there was a time within the decade where you could walk into a Hot Topic and see 3 different Homestuck shirts
Yeah,
and
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Dick
needs some kind of
fucking
limited
nothing
format.
sporting a Millennium item. This cultural drought continued until about 2017, when Konami released Duel Links.
I think this is a
half
good
gacha,
thing to put in
half
your video if you're talking about
old-school
history.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Simulator.
Duel Links,
It's clear this
I remember
app was
when
designed
Duel Links
for
came
a
out,
couple of months,
all of my friends who
maybe a
didn't
year,
play Yu-Gi-Oh!
of
or used to
juicing
play
the
Yu-Gi-Oh!
last
as a
few
kid
nostalgic
tried it.
millennials out of their avocado toast money. Konami was instead blindsided by a reaction they hadn't been
Yeah,
expecting.
you and everyone.
People actually
South
liked
Bay area.
playing Yu-Gi-Oh!
Most people
It
don't
was
actually play the
also
card
the
game.
flashpoint for a competitive scene developed at the community level by streamers like Decade. This massive success signaled to Konami that they had something here, and they raced to capitalize on the IP through the last few years of the teens.
I will say a lot of the reason I think Duel Links did well is not only because it was a mobile app that was free to download, so that way basically anyone who had any interest in Yu-Gi-Oh! Could try downloading it, but also because they dumbed it down a lot. Like, starting in Duel Links was really easy. One of the best decks I remember from when I first started playing the game was like Dino Beatdown, where you just played a bunch of like 1900 Gemini Elf stat level creatures and beat your opponent to death with them. That was the whole deck, because you had a skill that started you with a powerful field spell that made your guy stronger than any other normal summon in the game. Like, making an easy way for players to get into the game that is free is something that obviously will see a lot of success, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Is already relatively popular, so like doing more of that will lead to more success, right?
IE tie-ins, a new game mode designed to reintroduce anti-synchro holdouts to Yu-Gi-Oh!, shirts, skateboards, pop-ups, Funko Pops. For the first time in forever, Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans were eating good. Around this time, another figure emerged, the Yugi Tuber. People like Little Karibo had been making Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos forever, but tons of people had since realized riffing about card games online was a viable model for a YouTube channel. Skits, deck profiles, and duels using janky simulators
I summon Pot of Greed to draw 3 additional
This
cards
video is
from my
incredible.
deck.
had nurtured
If
a
you've never watched
niche
that
but
video, you have to
beloved
watch
base of
I Summon
so-called
Pot of Greed.
YouTubers like Vexicus666, Mega Capital G, and Galactigod. But emboldened by the game's renewed cultural import, the modern Yugi Tuber was born. These showmen made weekly reality show-style series like Simo,
Let's go, Simo.
cinematic content like Nim Nim, and more traditional streamer humor highlights like Farfa. Yu-Gi-Oh! Had become more than a hobby you had to
Good
take
old Farfa.
pains not to mention in mixed company. It had become a movement. And the hits kept coming. During COVID, a lot of people were spending a lot of time inside. And there's only so many sourdoughs you can start.
I'm gonna have to give this sausage here a 4 out of 5.
Card games were booming, with tons of potential duelists suddenly saddled with
you
a
gotta love some.
shitload of free time.
I think I'm gonna get back into Yu-Gi-Oh!
Konami capitalized with the release of what remains its flagship moneymaker, Master Duel.
Yeah, he's gonna talk about Master Duel here after Duel Links. A similar thing, I think. Free game.
Recording.
Everyone can play it.
I'm here with Paragon of the community, Farfa Yu-Gi-Oh! Or should I call you Glasgow?
Ex-Glasgow YGO, Farfa in the Flesh. Die.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about when Master Duel came
Yeah, now Duel
out.
Links is a lot like
What
the
was it
TCG,
like
but back when it
streaming
started,
Yu-Gi-Oh! Before
it was significantly
the release of
different.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel.
It's really weird because looking at this game from the perspective of a viewer and from the very, very niche 0.00001% perspective of a streamer is going to be really difficult, I think, for some people to engage with and understand.
Maybe you shouldn't put it in your tutorial video then, don't you think, Mr. Streamer?
Before Master Duel, I think it was probably just a case of like YGO Pro gaming with viewers, and I guess my most successful content was essentially just dueling book drama and toxic replays, which, you know, for better or for worse, was most of my content.
So you would load up stream, you'd sit there
my
for
God,
6
we're-
hours and what? You'd jam
We're,
games
we're
on
18
Dueling
minutes
Book,
in.
you'd look for people
It takes
calling
so
each
long
other
to get
slurs.
the
What was it
tutorial
like?
part, man.
I think Master Duel
how
was
to
just
play Yu-Gi-Oh!
after
I don't know, what is
the
Yu-Gi-Oh?
COVID
Oh, let's
era. We
explain
did have,
how
of
Master Duel
course,
works.
Yours truly's MCS events, which was
I remember when
cool to
Farfus was
prepare
from
for and
Glasgow
talk
to
about
Farfa,
and,
I'm old.
things like that. There was also a ton of
I
luxury
am later
events
into the
going on at
Yu-Gi-Oh!
time.
community, like
Oh,
online,
yeah.
than
But yeah,
most.
it really
When did he
was
change?
just sort of like dueling book meta, with tournaments thrown in here and there.
One beautiful morning in 2021, Master Duel is released at like 2 a.m.
It's been really been
what
4
happened
years since Master
afterwards?
Duel
Do you
released.
remember
Jesus.
like the week?
I still remember
following
downloading
its
it on
release?
Yeah, it's crazy because I think any sort of maybe like self-employed people in general reach this like real hallmark type of Watergate moment. Wait, what's the term? It's not a Watergate moment. Watershed moment.
Watershed moment.
Watergate moment.
It was a Watergate moment. Yeah, we were really doing a lot of crime.
There was this moment in time where everything and anything you do.
Look, this is funny, but this does not add to the video.
Off into like a billion different possibilities. That first week was incredible. I mean, from my perspective, just consistently streaming to, we're talking almost 5-digit numbers concurrent, like 6,000-7,000 people, like for that first week or something. Unbelievable.
I remember waking up like at 8 or 9 a.m.
How much
every
does
day
Farfetch
and just
stream to
pressing
nowadays?
go
Is
live
that
and then
similar to like?
streaming
Did he hold
until,
that amount,
11
or
12
were
at
those
night,
people
like,
just
every
interested
day
in
that week? Like as
Master
long
Duel
as I
on
could.
release?
It was just crazy, right?
It made so much sense because, oh, this thing that is basically a gift to a content creator is just dropped. But from my perspective, I do really regret not focusing way more on the YouTube side of things.
I want to ask you, so what did the Master Duel release mean for the community? To have sort
Finally,
of
the real
one
question.
simulator by which we all played the game.
I think Master Duel had very mixed reception, depending
Probably
on which
a bad thing to
demographic
have about
you ask.
your,
They already
you know,
sold
main game.
and invested TCG players, all hyped up on Master Duel and got into the game, and then, you know, everyone you knew was just in Discord calls with one another, playing the game, having fun. Super exciting and fun for like a week. But then like the TCG players started realizing, well, hang on a second, like this isn't our game, right? It's a whole ass different format. It's like Trizu from like 6 months ago. There's Maxi. And so people started to really realize this is just a different game. A lot of like, you know, veteran.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that Farfa makes there. It's that Master Duel is different than the TCG and the OCG. Like, it's just literally a different thing, which is not something they like. I don't know why they did that, to be honest, because they could just make it copy the TCG and it'll be different from the OCG, but that's fine, right? Like, why did you have to combine them both? It's kind of a strange thing. Like, it's already confusing for new people and people who like don't like one of the formats. At least you had one option for both people, but now there will be a lot of people who don't like either format of Master Duel or of the OCG or whatever because of Maxi or whatever.
Left Master Duel very quickly. On the other hand, the average casual nostalgic Yu-Gi-Oh, you know, boomer who used to collect the cards once upon a time, a lot of people jump into the game and are still invested until today because of Master Duel itself. So
they like collecting, and Master Duel does look nice.
Day one. I think
a lot of people probably play Master Duel and don't even play the cards. They just look at them.
Potential. It was more played than Counter-Strike, could you believe, within that first few days. So
yeah, several hundred per stream, not like thousands. Yeah, probably a Master Duel coming out kind of thing.
Release of Master
People
Duel.
wondering what the deal
has
is.
it done to the community, and where has the community landed as a result, do you think?
It's so weird. I think I'm gonna blame you for this, but it feels like the game is somewhat divided between different audiences and playstyles and attitudes towards the game and the digital game and the physical game.
Here's the thing. This is always going to be the case because they're literally different. This would be like expecting all Magic players to understand both Standard and Commander and Modern and whatever. Like, they're literally different formats and a different way of playing the game. So the community, by default, has to be divided, which is fine. That's a fine thing to have. You don't need to have everyone play the same game.
And I think a lot of that is projection from frustrations with Konami.
Yeah, the
From
tutorial is
all
coming soon.
angles.
Just wait, guys. It's
TCG
only
players are frustrated with
22 minutes in.
TCG.
Oh my
Master
God.
Duel players are frustrated with Master Duel. I don't know. It feels like it's in this weird position of
You just got back from his guide
uncertainty,
video.
but also maybe
We're going through it again
stagnation
here.
is
Gonna make
probably
some
the
points
best way
about
to
it.
Look at it.
Master Duel was an inflection point for the community. Not only was Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in a big way, but everyone online, from big-name streamers to Olympians to sitting congressmen, was in. Yu-Gi-Oh's gone from a childhood classic.
That's like an incredible thing to squander, right? Like, you have Ludwig, like one of the most popular streamers, playing Yu-Gi-Oh! You had all of these people playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And then because your game sucks, you can't get them to stay. Like, imagine if you got one of the massive streamers to be like, oh my god, I completely fall in love with Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm going to be playing this like every week now. It'd be incredible. But
To a niche
they don't know what's
online
going on.
fandom, to an integral part of our culture. So, once again, here's how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And we're getting this
another thing too, like a lot of the people like flexing the Exodia because it's something that resonates with millennials or whatever, or they loved it as a child. But like, there's a difference between those people and the people who actually play the game. Like you know the difference when you talk to them. You can feel it. I think some of them even like, talking to the congressman or whatever, like MBT did before. It shows that like he's like a part of the community. He's not just someone who liked the anime when he was a kid.
And one. I'm Babe Ruth calling my shot. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a trading card game played with pieces of cardboard.
This is also a thing that Gordon mentions here, but Legacy, Modern, and Standard are much more similar than Commander, which is fine. Yu-Gi-Oh! Will have a similar thing where, like, I think that Genesis is much more similar to Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Than Genesis is to, like, hat format or whatever. Yeah,
Each
22 minutes in,
card has
we're
a
here,
front
boys.
and a back. Cards printed in Japan and many Asian territories have a different card back than the
Explain
ones
me the
printed
card
in the
backs.
West, and as a result, can't be used in TCG territories.
This sucks, right? Like, you can play with foreign Magic cards, and it's fine no matter where you go, but if you come from Japan to play in America, you literally need to buy a whole new deck. Kind of annoying.
Cards come in one of three super types. Monster,
It does make it easier, though, I will say, to have that separation between what's legal on the OCG and the TCG.
spells, and traps, denoted by the color of the card itself. Spell cards are green, trap cards are purple, and everything else is a monster.
Good way
Each
to
spell
describe
and
it.
trap card will have an icon under the super type bubble, denoting if it is an equip, field, quick play, ritual, continuous, or counter.
This is something I talk about in my video, and I think I need to harp on it a little harder here. But like, he's showing you all of these at the same time. Which of these mechanics is the one that you are going to see every game, and which of these mechanics is the one that you will see in almost none of your games? You as a new player have no idea. Also, spell and traps. Are you going to see more spells or more traps or monsters? Like, if you know Yu-Gi-Oh, you know what's going to happen. But like, as a new player, you have no baseline for like what any of this means, even after he explains it.
If they lack an icon, they are referred to as a normal spell or a normal trap. Monster cards can be found in both the main deck, a 40 to 60 card pile of cardboard, or the extra deck.
You'll see
a
field and quick play all the
15
time,
maximum
but, like,
pile
equip?
placed on the
When was the
opposite
time you
side
saw
of
an
your
equip
deck.
spell in
We'll
Yu-Gi-Oh?
talk about extra deck monsters momentarily, but for now let's focus on main deck ones. Each monster card has an attribute denoted by a little bubble in the top right corner, a level denoted by a number of stars between
All
the name and
equips?
the art, a type, and an ability, effect, flip, tune, and the like. Normal monsters are yellow, and in the box under their type, they have italicized flavor text with no gameplay implications, but gives you a little peek into the world of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Okay, here is the thing about normal monsters where it gives you a little bit of like flavor text or whatever. In the early days, this means nothing because they don't have like a set lore or whatever. But like Magic has had flavor text on their cards with effects for the longest time. They don't really do it anymore because Magic both dumped the lore and also dumped the space on the cards to put more text on them. But like this was something I really liked about Magic is that you could be playing the card game and then get into the lore from the cards. Whereas Yu-Gi-Oh, that is all held up by the art, which is significantly better than Magic in my opinion, but having some understanding of like who the fuck Jinzo is would probably give more meaning to the card, right?
monsters have effect text, cool stuff they're allowed to do under certain conditions.
Cool stuff.
Each card can be played in one of
My
the
guy, Celtic Guardian. This happens all the time. You guys ever normal summon Celtic Guardian?
field zones. These front five are called the main monster zones, and they're reserved for monsters from your main deck. Mostly, when playing
Not mostly.
a monster card, you place it from your hand into one of these zones. This is called a summon.
Why does the Digimon TCG have worldwide release and Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't? Yeah, that doesn't. Yeah, one of these is slightly more popular than the other. I think they could figure it out. I've never played a normal monster ever. If you play the modern card game, it's very possible you've never had a normal monster in your deck.
The back five zones are called spell and trap zones.
But are normal monsters more common than effect monsters? Who knows? We got brought up at the same time.
And they're where you activate spell and trap cards. We'll talk about these momentarily, but spell cards can be activated as many times as you like, and trap cards must be set face down, then flipped up at the right opportunity at least one turn later. Here on the right is your graveyard, or GY, a face-up zone where monster cards go when they are destroyed, used as material for most...
I will say it is really nice that Yu-Gi-Oh stole Graveyard from Magic. I think more card games should steal the exact same thing from other card games to make it just easier for transition. If you're going from one card game to another, the discard pile or the graveyard, they both work pretty well.
extra deck summons or otherwise used up, and spell and trap cards go after use. Underneath it is your deck, from which you will draw one card at the start of your turn. On the left, we have the field zone, where you may play exactly one field spell, And underneath it, the extra deck, a face-down zone where you place up to 15 extra cards before the game begins.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh does have a lot you need to
above
learn
the
about
graveyard
combos and
is
stuff
your
before you can actually play your
banishment,
deck.
where monsters that have become banished through card effect go, and directly above your second and fourth.
It's also nice, like in Magic, because they kept the exile zone pretty sacred. Generally, you can say if a card is exiled, it'll be gone from the game forever. But the banish zone just doesn't do that in Yu-Gi-Oh, so they can't do that. This video is more a guy talking about his favorite thing than a tutorial. What do you mean? We're in the tutorial. It only took 22 minutes, but now we're in how to play Yu-Gi-Oh.
Zone are the extra monster zones.
Oh wait, no, he's talking about the extra monster zone, which means he's going to
nice,
start talking
right?
about Yu-Gi-Oh history
Explaining
again.
the game board, the anatomy of a card. Well, we've now reached our first impasse. See, Yu-Gi-Oh
impasse.
isn't just a game board developed by a few overworked executives in 1998. It's a map whose topography represents decades of successes and mistakes.
Notice the pendulum
And one of
zones,
the
which he
most
isn't going to
visible
mention
of
until
these
much later.
is the extra monster zone. In 2016, Yu-Gi-Oh's format was in chaos. 6 months of one.
Chat, what year can you not say that for? Like, pick a Yu-Gi-Oh year where you can't say the metagame was in chaos. I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh has been in chaos for more years than it hasn't. Yeah, he doesn't explain pans. It's very late.
Was being followed up with another 6 months of another silly monster combo. There were still dark times for Yu-Gi-Oh's cultural import, and it was near impossible
2008?
to beat back accusations from normies that Yu-Gi-Oh was
2008
competitive
broken?
solitaire when faced with mind-numbing
think.
combo decks like DDD. In both a debut of a new mechanic, and at least in part an attempt to slow the pace of play, Konami released their
2014 's
most
a good pick, actually.
controversial rule change of all time. Master Rule 4. This rule, taking effect with the release of a new summoning ability in 2017, required that any monster summoned from the extra deck be summoned in one of 2 zones specifically relegated for
This is
extra
a how to
deck
play.
monsters. The
You don't understand the how to play
extra
with this
monster
whole
zones.
ancient
Now,
tutorial
you can
going
only
on here?
control one of these zones, and upon summoning a monster to one of them, the other became the purview of your opponents. The new extra deck mechanic.
Can I say, the idea that they came up with this extra monster zone limiting special summoning is a good idea in concept. The problem is they like completely boxed out literally every strategy that required you to summon multiple monsters from your extra deck that didn't have a way to make links, and links were difficult to summon at the beginning anyway. So like they kind of axed the extra deck pretty hard, which was a lot of what people liked.
Unveiled alongside this change, Link monsters played off this as well. Each monster
Explaining
had
something that doesn't exist
arrows
is fine,
pointing to
but you
other
shouldn't
zones,
do it in
which
the tutorial to
indicated
teach you
that
how to play the
each
game.
linked zone was also permissible for an extra deck summon. In short, if you were playing an extra deck combo strategy, you'd have to not only find material in that combo for Link monsters, you'd have to buy them. This change was met with uproar. While many players
Look, having to buy them is definitely bad, and is a feels bad for people who had their decks ruined by the new Master Rule change, but like, even without that, like if they gave you every Link card for free, I think people would still hate the change.
did align with the goals of the extra monster zone, slowing down the pace of play to something comprehensible.
Yeah, Spiral
This was
2-0 in
both,
2017.
One, not an
So many
effective
broken
solution.
decks in Yu-Gi-Oh!
The decks that were
It's crazy
good
to think
before were still good in the new Master Rule, and 2, completely cynical. Wow, so we have to purchase new cards for our pet decks to solve a problem you created. Cool. The backlash to this was so unthinkable, Konami reversed in part this Master Rule in an addendum announced on, and I'm not fucking with you, April Fools, which allowed synchros,
Making your addendum on April Fools, very funny.
Xyzs, and fusions to be summoned to the main monster zones.
I
Now,
wonder how well it would have gone over if they had just kept it like that and then designed around it more.
the EMZ languishes as a general embarrassment and a holding facility specifically for Link monsters and face-up pendulums. More on those momentarily. Okay, that's the board. Now let's talk about the cards. The first and most common type of card we'll discuss is monster cards. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game about summoning monsters, a sentence that really freaked out a lot of housewives in the aughts. Each turn, the turn player can perform a normal summon by placing one of the monsters from their hand
That's
in
true.
the main
How Yu-Gi-Oh! Came
monster
to be
zone.
would be more
Each
fitting.
monster can be normal
But then
summoned
what is
in
the
attack
tutorial in here
position
for then?
or set in face-down defense position. If the monster you're attempting to normal summon has more than 4 stars, you will need to offer a tribute. 1 monster on the field to the graveyard for monsters with 5 or 6 stars, 2, 4, 7, and above. This is the platonic ideal of Yu-Gi-Oh! Gameplay. Each turn you put your best guy on the field, then you compare stats with an opponent like some sort of demonic version of war. It's the type of Yu-Gi-Oh! You probably remember from your childhood, either playing by yourself during recess before the teachers wised up, or watching the television show every Saturday morning. I call this implied Yu-Gi-Oh!
It's implied by the rules of the game that you just explained. Like, that is the implied Yu-Gi-Oh! That is given to you by how these rules work. But very quickly, like he's going to explain here, this is not what Yu-Gi-Oh! Was and became more about combos and stuff, which made this kind of attack, defense, setting, monsters, tribute summoning kind of auxiliary to the way the game actually is, which probably means you can cut it from your tutorial.
It's the Yu-Gi-Oh! You're taught in these how-to-play guides. The Yu-Gi-Oh! The Master Duel tutorial tricks you into thinking you'll experience. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Lamented for at length by YouTubers who knew everything went to shit when those white cards moved in. But it's never really been the Yu-Gi-Oh! That's been played. In the OCG circa 1999, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was played like this, but it didn't last long. By the time the TCG got its Cheeto-covered hands on this cardboard, our understanding of what a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Was
sometimes defense versus attack matters, but not a ton. You can tell because links don't have a defense mode, so they clearly didn't think it was that important.
Then cheating that limit would net incredible tempo. Enter
You could use tutorial to
special
imply
summons.
future things.
A special summon is a normal summon, except it's not. You can only perform them by card
What? Okay.
effect, but playing cards that enable them is paramount. A special summoned monster can be summoned in
Like a
face-up
Trag,
attack
you gotta love Trag.
or face-up defense position, unless otherwise specified, does not require tribute.
Here's the thing, you don't have to say it unless otherwise specified, because every card breaks every rule. Like you can find a card that breaks almost every rule in Yu-Gi-Oh! So otherwise specified isn't something you have to put in.
For high-level monsters, and importantly, does not use your normal summon for the turn. As early as 2003, everyone was playing cards like Last Will, Monster Reborn, and Premature.
Big agree here, Alex. If you want to get into Yu-Gi-Oh!, my advice would also be to use the free simulators, look up some tutorial videos on YouTube for how to play the deck, and then just try to figure it out by just playing it. But obviously, the way you should do it is find someone else who plays and get them to explain it to you. This is why I feel like we need a tutorial, because this gap between, like, here's how you normal summon Gemini Elf, and then here's how you play a combo deck. Like, where's the middle video between these to explain to me, like, how combo decks are played, maybe?
Or burial. But the selling point of a significant amount of strategies involved how effectively their monster lineup could perform these special summons. Mystic Tomato could special summon a monster from deck when destroyed, allowing you to toolbox through flexible options from the deck.
Here's
The Rock Spirit could special itself from the hand in an earth-heavy deck, allowing huge tempo swings when paired with your normal. Finally, in 2005, only 3 years after Yu-Gi-Oh's arrival in America, the game changed forever with the release of a single card, Cyber Dragon.
Cyber Dragon was a watershed
turned
moment
the
for
game
Yu-Gi-Oh!
On its head. Huge swings off the back of special summoning were nothing new, but now everybody could do it. And the worst part? It was fun. Instead of
Why? I get it was fun. Like, obviously, I know it's fun. I remember special like Cyber Dragon and that being a big cool deal, but like, why is it fun? Like, you gotta explain that part because you haven't explained anything about the game yet.
slowly managing a setup over the course of a dozen turns, games were fast, swings were big, you started dealing huge damage right away, and Konami responded in kind.
Playing Master Duel and getting your ass beat is how I learned. I mean, that's how I think most people have to learn. Like, it's the free way you're supposed to play the game, and then you just gotta lose like 30-odd games until you understand what your opponent is doing and how to emulate that.
Dragon became the template for decades of design. Over the next few years, the normal summon would transform from the backbone of gameplay to an afterthought. Yu-Gi-Oh! Wasn't about comparing attack stats, it was about special, big combos, big damage, let me show you what my deck can do! This transformation was aided by a similar design shift in the extra deck. This stack of cards prepared...
Yeah, if you're just willing to go into a game and lose 30 times to get an understanding of playing it, I think you can learn anything that way. That's just literally brute forcing it. I mean, it works, but I think a game of Yu-Gi-Oh's size and caliber should have a better option.
For a tournament and sleeved up in a different sleeve than the main deck, can be consulted and summoned from at any time. Originally, the extra deck contained only one type of card, fusion monsters. Fusion monsters are
This donut bit is fantastic, by the way.
purple, and usually have 2 or more named monsters right under their typing. They can be summoned using the spell card Polymerization, and by sending the named monsters from your hand or field to the graveyard.
Do not use the spell card Polymerization. I haven't seen a Polymerization in I don't know how long.
Once you've done that, you can special summon the fusion monster.
How is Yu-Gi-Oh fun when only one person is able to play? That is like what a lot of people say about Yu-Gi-Oh all the time. It's not that fun when only one person gets to play. It's more fun when multiple people get to play, which is like why they're trying to implement ways to do that more.
Monster from your extra deck to any of your main
the solo mode
monster
also sucks
zones
for Master
or the
Duel.
extra monster zone. Now, not all
it
fusions
works,
work
I
this
guess.
way.
If that's a
Some
compliment
can
to
be
it,
summoned by
it literally
vanishing
functions.
named monsters, and some don't have any material at all. They're summoned by completely different mechanisms.
So like why bother? Like this is the thing about the fusions. If they're all made by polymerization, then you can explain that. But because you can summon them however the fuck you want, what's the point of explaining that to a new player?
In any of these cases, the card will clearly explain the conditions under which you can summon them. Polymerization isn't the only way to summon these monsters either. Many
We do need
archetypes
more
will
treasure
have
random
their own
cards.
special
Start playing on your opponent's turn
fusion
kind of
card
thing.
that's an upgrade.
It's kind of the
over
end game though,
basic
right? Where are you gonna go from there
At
afterwards?
Yu-Gi-Oh's advent, these cards were mostly unsummonable trash, with a few exceptions. But everything changed at the release of 5Ds and our second extra deck summoning type,
Let's rev it up!
Yo, let's rev it up.
Synchros.
Policy's playing Draco Tail? Yeah, it's
Synchros
like a
are
tutor target,
white
right?
And usually have 2 or more materials listed under their typing.
But most
One
decks have
tuner
a specific spell
and one
that you
or
use
more
instead of poly.
non-tuner monsters.
So it's not literally polymerization.
They
It's
can
like
be summoned by sending any
Shit all
monster and
fusion or
a
whatever.
tuner monster, a classification denoted on main deck monsters by this ability text, to the graveyard, provided their levels combined equal the level of the monster you're summoning.
I do love synchros.
Stardust Dragon,
I think it was a great
example,
place to take
would
the
use
game.
a level 4 tuner and a level 4 non-tuner.
An interesting way to give you access to the
Unlike
extra deck
fusions,
without requiring
these
a fusion
monsters
spell.
require very little in terms of a main deck requirement. No
Mm-hmm.
polymerization, for example.
Here's the thing. Synchros require very little main deck thing, but because they attached tuners, it means you could limit what cards were tuners and not, meaning that you could kind of limit what cards could be used for fusions.
Upon release, it became immediately clear that playing the maximum number of copies of each individual
You might be
monster
right.
was the
Nux Plus. The video could just be like a marketing ploy to get more people to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Because, you know, it's not doing the best.
way to go. It gave you the most flexible range of options.
Yeah,
As
the
a
only
result,
reason you see
Konami
actual
shaved
poly
the
is because of
maximum
King of the
extra
Swamp.
deck size down to 15,
Which is a real crack
where it
card.
remains today. Then came Xyz. Xyz monsters are black and usually have 2 or more materials listed under their typing. 2 level 4 monsters, for instance.
Gotta bring out
These
the
can be
donuts.
summoned by stacking any monsters with the same level on top of each other, then placing
See, XYZ monsters are like a lot easier to make because most decks play multiple of the same monster, meaning you could almost always get advantage out of having them in your deck. But they're significantly powered down compared to synchros, in my opinion. Like 2 level 4s make a Stardust, and then 2 level 4s is strong, but not like as strong as a Stardust usually. So you can kind of balance them as like a weaker way to summon, but more accessible. I think they did a lot of that.
the Xyz monster on top of the stack from your extra deck. For many players, this was a bridge too far. These cards required no main deck concessions whatsoever.
It does run into the
and
problem
decks that
that you should
otherwise didn't
always
intend to
jam them
use
in.
the extra deck could now improve their matchup spread simply by playing a monster that would come up in a corner case board state. It's important to note that this is about the same time the role of the extra deck began to shift. What had begun as a holding facility for corner case monsters had become a sort of second hand.
Right, so like
an
this did-
always
at
accessible
the beginning,
toolbox
okay,
that
this is
allowed
not
you
always the
to
case.
clear weaknesses to get out of jail free.
They break their rules
on the
all the
back
time
of
in
a
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Castel or an Armades. But near the end of the lifespan of Xyz, the extra deck evolved into its final form.
Yeah.
A group of cards.
This is what he's getting at
that
the
could
end
be
of the
integrated
X-Man.
into your combo setups.
Yeah.
Foregoing the principle that the purpose of the extra deck was to be reactive, playmakers started to weasel their way into the always accessible extra. And rather than performing a combo
Yeah,
string,
they're always
based on
weaker
their
on
opener,
release and then get powered up
duelists
significantly.
began performing the same combo strings over and over again with 100% consistency, aided by cards in the extra. As early as 2012's wind-up format, the extra deck had become an assemblage of starters, extenders, end board pieces, and reactive toolbox options, and the main deck had become largely superfluous.
It's arguable that this is a good or a bad thing. Yu-Gi-Oh! Did have a lot of things that were unique from other card games, but having the extra deck as powerful as it is certainly pushes Yu-Gi-Oh! Into different territory, like extremely different territory from almost any other card game.
Finally, we reach the present day and Link monsters. Originally thought to combat the above design
pitch
trend,
is fine, but you
Link
gotta tell
monsters
people,
are more
yeah, that's true.
guilty
You
of
can't,
combo.
you shouldn't title your video how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And then it's just like why you should play Yu-Gi-Oh! Those are two separate things.
In a can than anything else before it. Each Link monster can be summoned by sending the materials listed on the monster to the graveyard, and then placing the Link monster in only the extra monster zone, and only in attack position. Each Link monster has arrows pointing to its neighboring zones. These linked zones become additional
Do keep in mind here, chat, he has skipped over Pendulum at this point because Pendulums aren't summoned from the extra deck. But in terms of the actual history of the game, Pendulums come out before Links, meaning that he kind of skipped over one of the main mechanics that was talked about, you know, after XYZ's happened.
extra monster zones. Notably, if a Link monster points to an opponent's main monster zone, then your opponent may summon a Link monster to that zone. Finally, you may perform an extra link by way of co-linking monsters in a U shape between the two zones, in which case you may utilize both extra monster zones, locking an opponent
I will say, it is really funny that Magic tried to do an extra deck kind of thing with companions, and it was immediately the most broken thing of all time and had to get instantly errata, which is something they almost never do in Magic. It was really crazy. So it still and will probably forever define Yu-Gi-Oh! More than any other mechanic.
of their own links. Link monsters have been
He mentions U-linking here too, which is like...
During Master Rule 4,
why?
duelists thought of them as a tax on the pet decks they had constructed decades ago. They're much more straightforward to summon than any of the above summoning types, but that means that if any of them have effects that are even remotely powerful, they're immediately suspect for a ban.
This is the other thing. Like, they made them more and more accessible, so more and more people could use them and they could fit into decks more easily, but then, because of power creep, they push them too far to where every deck has to have links in it or whatever, you know?
Links have been responsible for more unplayable formats than any other summoning type, despite
look at
being
that ban list.
around for less than a decade. Most memorably, Summon Sorceress and Firewall Dragon caused double digits of formats where top decks would kill you before the first turn of the duel. But it's suspected
SP Little Knight
because
is
Summon
really easy to make.
Sorceress was a promotional card, and Firewall Dragon was the ace monster of a popular anime character,
which you have not
Konami
have-
refused to ban.
It's really funny, right? Like, Blue Eyes and, like, all the anime main characters, monsters, were really bad, and the moment they make it good, it then, like, breaks the game. They don't want to ban it anymore. Oops.
These cards for years after their original print. On the other hand, Link monsters are intuitive. They're a more straightforward version of all of these mechanics. They feel like the logical endpoint of Yu-Gi-Oh! And, regrettably, they're extremely fun to play with. It's these two shifts in design principle, the special summon as the main action taken by Yu-Gi-Oh! Players, and the extra deck as a second hand, that are responsible for how Yu-Gi-Oh! Plays. Unlike other card games, in which a deck can perform completely differently each game based on the opener, a duelist will arrive at an event with a clear end goal in mind. This is what my deck does. Uninterrupted, they will be able to do that thing with 100% consistency, and the game will be determined by the effectiveness of an opponent's ability to stop their thing, as well as how the opponent's thing stacks up against it.
This is where a lot of the solitaire comes from, right? Like, when people describe Yu-Gi-Oh! As playing solitaire, it's not just because your opponent doesn't do anything, but it's also because you do the exact same thing every time. Like, you're simply building your deck to do the one combo that you know and have memorized, and then you just do the one combo, and then your opponent dies.
Now that we've got a decent understanding of the different types of monster cards, let's deal with the most important
Solitaire's
part
fun.
of them, the paragraph
Yu-Gi-Oh!
of text
themed Solitaire,
under their
anyone?
type line. Any monster card you're going to play is going to be saturated with effects. Back in the day, players were content with the card that did one thing ever.
In a live, he commented on his stance was that some people would have clicked off the video at the mention of the best mechanic for the sake of retaliation. Retention, he pushed it. People click off of videos because of the mention of Pendulum? It's a how to play video. Did you think they just weren't going to talk about trap cards in the Yu-Gi-Oh video? Like, what do you mean?
But as decks became more consistent, they started playing fewer and fewer cards with more applications, to the point where despite the lengthy text on cards, after only a few games of Yu-Gi-Oh, you'll be familiar with the majority of what's being played.
Yeah, at this
Regardless,
point, knowing about
here's how to
Yu-Gi-Oh
read
does
cards
not
you're
matter.
seeing for the first time. There are 4 types of effects a monster can have: an ignition effect, a trigger effect, a flip effect, a quick effect, and a continuous effect.
Okay, here he says 4, and then he mentions 5, which is fine. Flubs happen all the time. Happens in my videos constantly. But, like, by just listing all of these out like this, it doesn't communicate anything to the player other than the fact that they exist. How am I supposed to know which one of these is more important? You can gain a lot of knowledge based on, like, what the actual thing is. Like, a quick mechanic is quick, a trigger effect probably triggers, the flip effect happens when it flips. You know, it makes a lot of sense. They're well-named effects and mechanics. But, like, a lot of these don't matter to the game, and a new player isn't going to know that, so they're going to try to remember, oh, this is what a flip effect does, into their, like, 30th game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where it doesn't matter.
Ignition effects can be activated, should you like, at any time during an open game state in your main phase. A good way of thinking about it is, anytime you're just fucking around and could theoretically set a card
I do
or
like
something,
the word ignition
you
for this.
could
This works.
use an ignition effect. A trigger effect can only occur when a specific event occurs. For instance, Mystic Tomato summons a monster when it's destroyed as a result of battle. A good rule of thumb for these cards is if their use case comes up, it'll trigger. This will make more sense as we get to nonsense like the damage step, but often if it's intended to work, it will.
Thoughts on Genesis format? I think Genesis is good. It's a step in the right direction. I was thinking, I'm making a new video actually right now that's going to talk a bit about Genesis format, so I'll put my thoughts more in there later. But I do like Genesis. I think it's a good way to go. I wish they didn't kill Time Wizard for it, but it's good.
Quick effect works like an ignition effect, except it's quick. It can be activated as an ignition would, but also in response to other effects or activations and during any phase of the game.
Yes.
Finally, a
Ash
continuous effect is an effect that applies continuously while the monster is face up on the field. I should note that there are a few effects that don't fall into any of these categories that we've just decided to call unclassified effects. There aren't a lot, but if you just read the card, it'll explain how it works.
Here's the thing. You don't need to mention this. If you read the card and it explains how it works, you're going to have to read every card anyway. So, like, why bother mentioning that things break the rules? This happens for every card type in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Effects are not to be confused with conditions. Conditions are parts of the effect text which are not effects and can't be negated. They'll usually refer to the mechanism by which a monster is summoned. Blackluster Soldier, Envoy at the beginning, can be summoned by banishing a light and a dark, even though that part of the effect text stops mattering once he's on field. There's one more
Makes
part of
sense.
the card we haven't talked about. Prior to the effect, you may see some words followed by a colon or a semicolon.
Yes,
Words
grammar
prior
time.
to a colon refer to the timing during which a card can be activated. Words prior to a semicolon refer to the cost that must be paid in order to activate the effect.
Reading the card
Even if
explains
the
the
effect
card.
is
Usually,
negated,
mostly.
you'll have to pay those costs.
Have you guys seen the fantastic Ristic Study video called Explaining the Card Explains the Card? Give it a watch if you haven't.
One
After
final
the stream.
note about costs is that they aren't effects. Cards that get a benefit if they're sent to the graveyard from a card effect, therefore, won't trigger
even
if they are
if you want,
sent
it's
to pay the cost of a card. But cards that benefit if they're sent to the graveyard for any reason will. If this sounds like you're just getting a grammar lesson, sorry, but it's not going anywhere anytime soon. On that note, let's talk about conjunctions. Yu-Gi-Oh! Uses 4 conjunctive words
This is
on their
why
card
Konami made
text.
Rush. Yeah.
Then, also, and if you do, and. If
So here's the thing about all this grammar stuff. He's going to get into more of this throughout the video, missing the timing and all that stuff. And this is an important thing to explain to players about how things work. But this isn't the thing you should put in your how-to video, in my opinion. I think you should probably be including the important stuff you need to know how to play the game. And then this stuff will come up as a natural consequence as you play the game and learn how things work and have things explained to you by maybe Master Duel will explain it to you. Maybe you'll have people explain it to you as you're playing in person or whatever. Or maybe you can just make a complex tutorial that explains the more complex mechanics of how the grammar things are.
effect says to do A, then to do B, those effects happen in sequence.
Most of it
and A
is
must
relatively
happen
simple.
for B to occur.
So it's a fine
If
thing
A
to put in your
doesn't
tutorial.
happen due to
It's
some
not that hard to
trickery by
explain.
your opponent, then sorry, you've missed out on B. If an effect
I will
says-
say this is probably my favorite part of the tutorial parts of the video is explaining the stuff that I've never seen explained in another tutorial in this way, and it's important thing to know about Yu-Gi-Oh! This is real information that is being conveyed to a new player. This stuff is very important in like literally every game, but like if you're playing on Master Duel, it'll handle most of it for you anyway, so you don't need to know it unless you're playing in paper, and even then, your opponent will explain it to you when you try to cheat with it.
As do A, also do B, both effects happen at the same time, and either can happen independent of another. If an effect says do A and if you do B, both effects happen at the same time, but A must happen for B to occur.
This tutorial part goes
And
by fast enough that I think
finally,
it's fine to put in.
Do A and B. Simultaneous, but you've got to do both.
Like
or
do A
neither.
and B. You don't need that much explaining for that kind of stuff, right? Like this
Let's
beginning
take a
part here is pretty good to put in, I think.
That's in my head. Iron Maiden.
I think I'm more talking about this missing the timing part we're going to come up on, but I think this is still useful to put in.
Sure.
Okay. Doc PSCT, take 1.
This is a lot, I know. There's a reason Yu-Gi-Oh! Has gained a reputation in recent years as a game for lawyers. A significant amount of a card's power has to do with how effectively duelists have scrutinized its text, but I can at least attest to the fact the alternative is a lot worse. In 2011, Yu-Gi-Oh! Released something called problem-solving card text, a standardization of card mechanics that's resulted in
Keep in mind that he said the alternative is a lot worse, and here he's going into the alternative.
the bloated but functional rules above. Before that, there was simplified effect text, which was better than nothing, but still extremely imprecise, and before that, there was nothing. Cards worked or didn't.
It's better than nothing. I mean, yeah, obviously it's better than nothing or the more simplified versions of the rules we have, but isn't it worse than a more clear set of rules that people can understand upon first blush? I mean, Magic does have lots of these similar problems too for the complex things, but they work pretty hard to kind of weed those out of the rules in a way where you won't have to interact with it in most games.
Based on the interpretation of whoever was the head judge of the event you were at. Here's a great example. Last Will is a card so powerful it saw consistent play until its banning, despite
Good example,
the fact
but
that no one knew how it worked.
It's insane, right?
How many
Like, to
times can
not
you
know
fetch
how
a
the card
monster?
works.
Is it every time a monster is sent?
Like, this
Can
is
you
what the
activate
rules are
this if
for.
a monster hasn't left the field yet, hoping the effect will be active later? Does using that pocket effect start a chain? Can your opponent respond to it? These questions were so hotly debated that communities that play historic formats that include this card still get in arguments about how it should work. Speaking of hotly debated and frustrating grammatical arguments, let's talk about missing the timing. Even if your interest in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is relegated to pointing and laughing from the commander table, you may have heard of missing the timing. If this is you, by the way, enjoy the next 8 universes beyond and leave us be.
If you're a Commander player, we don't want you in our tutorial. Go away. Go play Universe Beyond. Have fun with Avatar. Bye-bye. You're not important to us. Shouldn't these be the people you want to get into the game?
Missing the timing is the new player turnoff. If you can make it through this, the rest of the video will go down like an if-then. Missing the timing is a community-created piece of jargon used to refer to the quirkiness that occurs with a very specific type of effect activation. Many cards, mostly monsters with trigger effects, will bifurcate these effects by mandatory or optional. Mandatory effects will be worded like, if X happens, or when X happens, while optional effects will be worded like, if X happens, then you can Y, or when X happens, then you can Y. Missing the timing only occurs with the latter effect. For a when you can effect, the last thing that happened has to be the trigger condition being met. And when I say the last thing, I mean the last thing.
I will say, these visuals are incredible. He's doing a great job explaining how it works, differentiating between the two things. This is an incredible thing that you should put in your tutorial when you explain Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it's something that will happen to you if you don't know about it, and it doesn't really make any sense. That being said, this shouldn't be in the game, right? Like, you should just have one of the mechanics be the major one and not have both be the case. Either you always miss the timing or you never miss the timing, not you have to read the card and accurately assess which one it is to be able to figure it out for every single deck ever.
Let's use one of the classic timing missers, Dupe Frog, to explain. Dupe Frog is
If
on
they
your
can't
side.
take a joke, we don't want them.
You activate
Pretty sure most
Power
Commander players
Greed,
will take the
and your
joke.
opponent chains Raigeki Break, targeting your Dupe Frog. You resolve the chain, and looky there, Dupe Frog is in the graveyard. Time to search. Well,
That's
not
pretty
so
obviously
fast.
a Universe Beyond
At the
joke,
point
which I
that
think is
Dupe
fine.
Frog went to the
I'm just salty about
graveyard,
Universe
you were
Beyond
still
killing
resolving
Magic
the effect
lore.
of Pot of Greed. He missed his chance. And the timing. Okay, well, what if instead he's minding his own business when your opponent instead fires a Soul Taker? Destroyed, so
Solid
let's
Snake
search
exclamation
again,
point.
right? Wrong again. Soul Taker performs an action, then gains life. As explained above, a then conjunction happens sequentially. Something's going on while he's being destroyed, and therefore he's missing the timing. Synchro summoning with Duprog? Fat chance. The last thing to happen was a monster being summoned.
Yeah, the
Missing the
if-when
timing.
thing is something that like was made for one specific card interaction way back in the day, and then they just kind of kept up with it until now, which feels like something that they should have weeded out of the game at this point. Most of the time, I see new players have trouble with things like missing damage, chain lace, and cost in general. Yeah, that will trip up a lot of new players.
The good news is that this doesn't come up often.
This video
Konami's
is
done
very
a
well
pretty
made. It's
good job
incredible. Like if
ensuring
this
they
wasn't
never
a
print
tutorial
card that
video,
works
I wouldn't
like
have
this again.
almost any problems with it.
But
if it was
Konami's
just
hardly
an NBC
perfect.
video.
Let's
I love
finish
NBC
up our
videos.
discussion of monster cards with an easy one: abilities.
Yeah, the if and when stuff is dumb.
Many cards
I think
have an
everyone can
additional
understand that.
word by their type line that describes another quality of them: Flip, Tune, Gemini, and Spirit. The latter three aren't particularly popular, and we'll spell out how they work in their effect text. So for now, let's talk about flips.
See, here's the thing. He goes over all these different types and how you don't really need to explain them, which is good. That's how you should treat all the mechanics that you're not going to see.
As discussed earlier, when a monster is normal summoned, it can be normal summoned
What I've heard,
in
it feels like
face-up
Konami made a lot of
attack
bad, weird decisions.
or set in
Yes, correct.
face-down defense position. Provided it wasn't summoned this turn, a face-up monster can change its battle position once per turn, and a set monster may use that change to be flipped face-up. If a monster has a flip effect, this will trigger it. If a monster with a flip effect is attacked, it will be triggered as well. Let's move on to magic cards.
So here he explains how flips work as opposed to all the other ones, which would make you think flips are important. He spent more time here explaining how flip works than how quick effects work on monster cards like Ash Blossom, for example. Which one do you think a new player coming away from this video is going to think they're going to see more? You just went over the other three mechanics and said, these ones aren't important. Let's talk about flips. Here are how flips work. How often in a modern game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Are you going to see a flip?
Gem.
People are getting a lot of flack for what's happening in MTG. Comparatively, MTG has been so well managed. Correct.
Do we need to go past there?
We're cool.
Definitely don't
So
give
the other
Wizards a
flip
free
thing is
pass.
fine.
They've made a lot of mistakes, but the way
How do you
Gavin
like
handles
transition out
the
of
Magic community is something that everyone that plays Yu-Gi-Oh! Probably wishes from Konami. MTG has a more coherent design, absolutely. They have a much more clear direction for where they want to go with the game.
Let's talk about magic cards. Spell cards, actually. If you'll recall, Yu-Gi-Oh! Used to be a send-up to Magic the Gathering, so early sets called these teal cards magic cards. Unfortunately, it turns out you can't call the cards of a game that isn't magic cards, so they were pretty quickly changed to be spell cards by the release of Magic Ruler. Hilariously, that set also had to have its name changed to Spell Ruler.
I don't know how they didn't see that
Anyway,
coming. That
there's
seems
6
pretty
types
obvious to
of
me.
spell cards denoted by their icon, and like monsters, they can be played either face up or face down.
Nice page of the script.
Firstly are spell cards without an icon. These are called normal spell cards. They're one-time use cards with a singular effect. You can activate a spell card during the main phase whenever you're just fucking around by placing it into one of your unoccupied spell and trap zones, declaring the effect.
Ooh, I will say, in terms of like Konami communicating to the player base and WotC communicating to the player base, like people will clown on WotC a decent amount for when they communicate, but at least they communicate every time, so you can at least understand where they're coming from, even if it's wrong. I'm pretty sure Konami tried for like one ban list to tell people why the ban list was happening, and then got so much flack for it, they just like never did it again, which is a really funny way to like back out of communicating with your players. Like they're like, ooh, the communications went wrong and like not the way we wanted to. I guess we're just like not gonna talk to you anymore. Bye. Oops. Really should have had an explanation of quick effects and the fact that they can be used from hand. Ash Blossom and Joy Spring is the most important card to explain. This is one of the first cards I would explain to a new player if I was trying to teach them how to play Yu-Gi-Oh!
And then sending the card to the graveyard. Next up are equip spell cards. These cards affect
Probably because they assumed that type of
monster.
card wasn't related to an entire game. I mean, it's called Magic the Gathering, and they're called Magic cards. I don't think it's that big of a stretch that the Magic cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Are going to get confused with the Magic cards from Magic, especially for like moms or whatever.
As part of the activation. Usually they give it some sort
Yeah,
of benefit.
the ban list
You can
for
equip an
Genesis
equip
is
spell
a lot
to
better.
Either player's face-up monster,
In terms of
and it
explaining stuff.
remains on the field as long as that monster's face-up.
That's why people have a lot of
When the
hope for
equipped
Genesis.
monster is removed from the field or flipped face down, the equipped spell is destroyed. Continuous spell cards remain on the field once they are activated and usually, but not always, include a continuous effect that will continue applying as long as they are face up. Field spell cards
having a card with a
are
97%
just
play rate and not
continuous
banning
spell
it is a
cards that
little
end up in the
ridiculous.
field spell zone.
Okay. Keep in mind here how quickly he went over the field spells. Like, he just talked about continuous spells. He spent a lot of time on equip spells and how equip spell works. The field spells are not just an effect that sits in your field spell. They have a functional difference from continuous spells in which you can play one over another one and it removes the initial one. Like, there's a significant difference between the field spells and the regular spells, but he doesn't bother to explain it, even though that is something that is relevant to the game. And yet he does explain how equip spells work and how when you remove an equip monster, the equip spell goes away, something that probably won't matter.
Continuous spell cards that end up in the field spell zone. Equip spell cards, field spell cards, and continuous spell cards also function in a strange way with respect to destruction. Yu-Gi-Oh! Takes great pains to differentiate destruction
This is
and
another
negation.
important thing to put in
If you
your
activate a
Yu-Gi-Oh! video.
Raigeki
This is
break
something
targeting my
almost every new
Diane
player won't
Kanto the
understand,
Cure Master,
especially coming
I'm
from
still
Magic.
gaining 1,000. The effect's already been activated. This is true for every type of spell except these three: equips, continuous, and field spells. They have to remain on field for their activated effects to resolve.
Play rate shouldn't matter. IMO, you should only remove cards that destroy the natural flow of the game state. I agree with that, but Maxi is definitely a card that destroys the natural flow of the game, where your opponent active Maxi and then you stop your entire turn. Like, it's both of these. But you are correct. If there was a card that was really good for the game, like incredible, and every deck played it, but it made every game better, that'd be a fine card to have around. It's just that card's really hard to make in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Quick play spell cards are spells that can
Yeah,
be
it happens
activated
all the
during
time with
any
Ghost
phase
Ogre
of
and
the
stuff like
turn.
that,
These can be activated on either player's
I think
turn.
Ghost Ogre and
but in
Solar does a
order to
good job
activate
explaining
them
that to you
on an
as a card,
opponent's
though.
turn, they'll need to first be
Compared
set
to, like,
on
MST.
your side of the field. Notably, when you set a quick play spell, you may not activate it on the same turn. Finally,
I like how
let's
that works
talk
the same
about
as
last two
traps. It
kinds
makes
of
it
spells.
easier to understand as a player.
Ritual spells are used to perform ritual summons and operate exactly like normal spells. This is a kind of special summon that requires a ritual monster, colored light blue, in your hand and material from your hand or field. This whack-ass summoning condition is a holdover from early Yu-Gi-Oh! Before people realized a 3-card combo you have to draw isn't very good. Ritual
You watch this video, you understand that ritual summoning is a holdover from old Yu-Gi-Oh! Are you going to see it? Depends on when you watch the video. Is rituals playable right now? They're pretty good right now. You're going to see a decent amount of it, even though it's a holdover, and yet you're not going to see any flips or equips or continuous spells. Unless you do. I don't know what this tutorial is trying to teach me.
monsters aren't particularly prevalent, but to make up for their whack-ass summoning condition, the super type is often given just... Ugh. No, I'm good. The super type is often just given cards that add 3 or 4 additional cards to hand, so don't be too surprised if they're broken. Which leads us
Mitsu
to
is
the
not getting
last
hit. I agree,
type
I don't
of
think that
spells. Pendulums. Depending on who you talk to,
Okay, so now he gets into talking about pendulums. So let's just see where he goes from here.
are the super type that put the nail in Yu-Gi-Oh's coffin. Unintuitive, covered in text, and responsible for some of the weirdest rulings imaginable, it's not surprising to see animosity for this summoning type. That said, I always found it misplaced. Sure.
Okay, I think a lot of the reason he finds it misplaced is because he doesn't take into account the time when it came out. Like I said, it came out between XEs and it came out before Links, which means that in that zone where you were playing with XE cards, you're probably expecting a next new summoning mechanic to be really powerful. Synchros are super powerful, and then XEs are even more powerful than that. The next one's probably going to be really powerful and cool and intuitive, just like the previous two were getting more and more intuitive. You kind of see the direction it's going, and Pendulums completely swung the other way. Not only are they not sitting in the extra deck, they sit in your main deck. They summon completely differently. They don't even summon themselves. They're also spell cards. They're incredibly confusing, but also your expectation for them was really high. When you introduce a brand new mechanic to your card game, it's like introducing a new color to Magic. It's a really big deal. And when that was not only a flop, but a confusing flop and something that most people didn't want to interface with, it's like really bad for the game.
They take a little explaining, but once you've heard how pendulums work once,
Pendulums got me back into Yu-Gi-Oh!
Pendulums are cards that
People hate it.
act like both spells and
That is true.
monsters.
Pendulums as like a blanket mechanic, I think would be fine. If they just said, hey, one day we're adding pendulums to the game as a mechanic, I think it'd be pretty cool, like the way a Magic does a mechanic. But because it was like built up like the new summoning mechanic, you expected so much from it, and it just didn't deliver to that extent.
While in your hand, they can either be summoned or placed into your leftmost and rightmost spell.
Yeah, having a spell monster like is a fun idea.
Card,
kind of like dual class cards from Hearthstone.
Pendulum zones. The cards within them are able to use their pendulum effect, written here, as any continuous spell.
You can also see how they wanted to make it a big deal by changing the board, similar to the way they did it with Lynx. They literally added 2 extra pendulum zones, not only meaning you needed to get a new mat to be able to represent these pendulum zones, but there are brand new zones added to the game just for this mechanic. It's probably really important and really powerful, right? For the first few years, that's just like not the case. And for casual players, it's confusing. So pro players aren't using it. Casual players aren't using it. Who is this mechanic for?
Spellwood. If any of these face-up cards on the field would be sent to the graveyard, they are instead placed on top of your extra deck, face-up. Once per turn, if both
people do usually expect the new thing not to be stronger, but to be feeling good to use.
Special summoning any number of monsters with a level between.
Konami's been experimenting with pendulums a lot recently, which I do like. There's a lot of cool ways to do it.
Pendulum scale from your hand or face-up extra deck. The monsters in your extra deck specifically have to be summoned to an extra monster zone. Okay, still with me? Now you may not believe it, but that last paragraph has been the death of thousands of duelists. If you find yourself a little bewildered by Pendulum, don't worry. There aren't very many good ones. Konami has at least taken the criticism of this super type to heart. Lastly, let's talk about.
There's not that many good ones, which I think is a fine way to dance around the problem, which is just to kind of sweep it under the rug. But there's a lot of cool stuff you could do with pendulums. I don't think it's like that bad of an idea overall. It's just they set it up in a really, really poor way, in my opinion. And then by the fact that they got rid of the pendulum zones, you can see that they backtracked on it pretty hard. I think that synchro summoning and XE summoning are clearly better than pendulum summoning, along with Lynx. I think they're all better summoning mechanics. But Lynx isn't like a bad summoning mechanic. It's just like not at that same level, and they kind of stationed it as so.
Trap cards. Trap cards are part of the allure of Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards whose existence on the field makes an opponent play differently. Many card games allow you to interact with an opponent via powerful onboard tricks or secretive hand shenaniganry, but in Yu-Gi-Oh! Your cards are on the table. This mind game between players, is that set card a spell they just put face down? Is it a trap they can't activate? Or is it the one card that will cause my entire strategy to crumble, is one of Yu-Gi-Oh!'s biggest strengths. So
yeah, there's a lot of stuff you could do, but pendulums get skipped in this video because they're not that important, which is why it's weird that he brings them up here because you're not going to see them that much. It's kind of a weird thing to put in the tutorial at all in the first place. Personally, I probably would just put in the tutorial where they belong and not worry that much about the fact that people hate them. If you're someone watching your video is a tutorial video and they don't like it for something you put in about the game, like that's like just not the person the video is for, right? Like it doesn't really matter. Also, he talks about how like having set cards is the hidden info mechanic, whereas in other card games, it's your cards in your hand. Not only has Yu-Gi-Oh! Walked this back, whereas now the cards in your hand are the hidden mechanic with hand traps and such things, but it's also one of the things I found the coolest about Yu-Gi-Oh! Was when you would like set a trap and then set like a normal spell to like try to bluff your opponent into destroying that one instead of the trap card that you needed, or also like having a set monster have an interesting effect that when it flipped up so your opponent wouldn't attack it even if it wasn't the flip monster they think you set. Like there's a lot of cool stuff that setting cards face down did that are just axed from the game now because the power creep is too far and having a card take a turn is way too long.
So it's shocking to see that the cards are so simplistic.
This is also definitely setting a weird element of trap cards. Like he talks a decent amount about trap cards in the thing, so you'd probably think trap cards see a lot of play, and they just don't. Then the other two mechanics, like they just don't.
3 types of trap cards, but they all share the same characteristic. They must be set for a turn before they can be activated. On your turn, during your main phase, you can place one face down in one of your spell and trap card zones. Starting in your opponent's draw phase, you can activate a trap card whenever you like, provided you've met the activation condition. Normal trap cards are just what it says on the tin. Single use, goes to the graveyard.
My goat magic cylinder.
Continuous trap cards are a little different. These cards, like continuous spell cards, stick around. Usually, these will have ignition effects that you can activate in response to an opponent's action, or a continuous effect that will warp the
I feel like
entire
Yu-Gi-Oh does a
game
pretty
state.
good job explaining this
Like
on your own,
continuous
but
spells, they must remain face
the amount of time
up
we're
to apply
spelling on
their
this
effects.
makes
A
it seem
destruction
like
effect
it's
will
really
cause them to
important,
resolve
right?
Without effect. Finally, counter traps are trap cards that are spell speed 3. They're differentiated from normal trap cards.
This video tries too hard, both a thesis of why modern Yu-Gi-Oh is good, but also an in-depth tutorial. Feels like you kind of should have split into two, right?
Cards based on the position they occupy in a chain. Chains. Right. Okay.
So now he's going to explain chains. He talked a bit about counter traps. Not the most relevant thing to put in, but it's there. Like a lot of other stuff in this video, to be honest. How far in are we now? 53 minutes in?
Chains are Yu-Gi-Oh's way of creating a system for taking actions, then responding to an opponent's actions. Whenever an opponent activates a card or effect,
I think Flaming Sabo has a really good point here. There's a lot of really impactful traps, like Imperm or like the Dominus cards. Like, they're really, really powerful cards. You don't use them as traps, though. They're hand traps, which is something he doesn't explain in the video. I think using those as an example of way a trap card works and a way that common trap cards are used nowadays would have been a great point to make. But he doesn't. So you're going to just see them as a new player and understand that this is a trap card you're supposed to set, and not understand that the actual reason that card's in your deck is because it's a hand trap.
chain is created. Then
Continuous
you may
traps like
respond
skill
to an
drain
effect of your own.
esque effects are probably
If your
the strongest
opponent
kind of trap.
declines to activate an effect, you may add a second effect of your own afterwards. Once both players are done adding effects, the chain resolves backwards in full.
Another good thing
the
to copy
last
from Magic.
card activated all the way down to the bottom. This ain't Magic. You can't let some of the stack resolve.
Yeah, he
or
doesn't
target
mention
things
hand traps
further down
at
the
all
stack.
in the video.
One big chain
You may think it's coming, it's
resolves
not.
all at once. But that's not all. You're also only allowed to respond to chain effects that have a certain spell speed. You can only respond in a chain with an effect of spell speed 2 or higher, and you must respond with an effect of equal or greater spell speed. As an example, every type of spell...
I will say, I do like Yu-Gi-Oh's spell speeds. I think that instant and sorcery and magic is kind of like just spell speeds 1 and 2, and that's it. And having extra tiers on top of that is something that would be an interesting design place to play with. They just don't use it that much in Yu-Gi-Oh, to be honest.
Except quick play spells.
Hand traps are also
and
my
every
favorite
type
thing
of
about
monster
modern Yu-Gi-Oh.
effect,
Having
except quick
Force
effects
of
are
Will
spell
is...
speed 1.
If you haven't played Magic Legacy before, Force of Will is an effective hand trap where you just play Force of Will for free and have to pitch one other card from your hand of a certain color. The color's blue. It's probably the thing that holds Legacy together the best, because otherwise it would be just like Yu-Gi-Oh, where you have decks that consistently kill you on turn 1 with no way to stop them. But because they have this card in the game that's been present and one of the most played cards in the game from the very beginning, it not only holds the game together, but also feels really good to play with.
And therefore can't be used to respond to a chain. Spell speed 2 effects include quick play spells, quick effects, and almost...
Another thing from Force of Will that's really important is the fact that you do have to pitch an additional card to use it, giving you some of extra skill of like, what card in my hand am I getting rid of to actually counter this? And it also means that you can't just pitch 1 for 1. The most annoying thing is when you play a card and your opponent just ashes it and you're just 1 for 1. Like, your opponent will lose nothing for using that ash against you. Force of Will, you always gain a small advantage of an extra card over your opponent when it's used against you.
all trap cards. Spell speed 3 is
It's
exclusively
annoying to me
reserved
that
for
it
counter
was the
traps.
conceit of the video to start
and
explaining
usually
beyond the
closes
basic,
chain.
and then they just explain the basics.
Let's see an
yeah.
example in action. You normal summon a Neo-Spacian Aqua Dolphin. You pay the cost.
Here's
for
the thing, Yu-Gi-Oh is like if Legacy was the only format, but like Legacy does a lot of stuff better than Yu-Gi-Oh, even though that's only one format of Magic, right? Well, it's stuff that Yu-Gi-Oh definitely does better, but like, if you ask a lot of people, do you want to play Legacy or Yu-Gi-Oh, a lot of people are going to say Legacy.
his effect, and your opponent responds with Forbidden Chalice, which they set a turn prior. You respond with a Magic Jammer, which is spell speed 3. Your opponent has a second Forbidden Chalice set,
Not a
but
Magic
because
Jammer, that's a
Forbidden
Magic
Chalice
Drain,
has a spell
but
speed
that's
of
fine.
2,
Who cares?
and Magic Jammer has a spell speed of 3,
I wish
they
there was
cannot
more
respond.
spell speed 3 battering
You
kind
look
of
at their
stuff to
hand
make this more
and
interesting
discard a piece of Exodia,
than
let's say.
just counter traps.
But what happens when more than one effect meets its trigger condition at the same time? Well, that's governed by a principle called Seagawk. Many of you may think you're
Yeah,
already
Legacy
a master of
isn't
seeing
a
Gawk.
big thing.
but
I
what I'm
haven't played
talking
Legacy in a
about
long
is
time, but I did like Legacy when I played it.
simultaneous effects go on chain. When multiple trigger effects would occur at the
Good
same
Seagawk
time,
joke.
they're activated in the following
This video is
order.
funny. There's funny parts of this
The
video. It's
turn
good.
player's mandatory effects, the opponent's mandatory effects, the turn player's optional effects, and the non-turn player's optional effects.
This reminds me a lot. Magic has a very similar thing where when a bunch of effects happen at the same time, they all go into the stack with the turn player first and then the other player first. This is just rule stuff that you're going to have to learn eventually. Probably not the most important thing to put in the tutorial. Like a more complex tutorial, this would make sense, but this is supposed to be a starting tutorial. It's fine to have. You have to have an explanation for this. It's not the most important thing.
If there are two or more of any individual type of effect, the turn player may order them as they wish. As a final note, the turn player always has the first shot at starting a chain with a quick
Commander
effect.
is a lot of fun
If two
for
effects
having
meet their
friends.
activation
Being able to play with four
conditions
people
at
is
the same
something
time,
you
and
sorely
one is
misses.
a higher priority to resolve than another,
Yeah, there is no chain blocking in Magic. That's something that Yu-Gi-Oh does that's unique and cool, I think.
For a classic example, Sword Soul will often summon Chi Xiao using a copy of Moye.
Big agree for the way that Master Duel does chain linking, the way it actually chains together. I think that's
you may
quite cool.
draw a card.
And how like each of your sides has its own thing.
And when Chi Xiao is summoned, you may add a Sword Soul card to your hand, often a game determinative action. Since both effects are optional, ordering the chain so that Chi Xiao is Chain Link 1 and Moye is Chain Link 2.
This is actually a pretty good example going over like actual cards that you might play in the game from Sword Soul. Like you could do this with other decks too, but like he said, the video, he took a long time to make it, so it doesn't have to be super relevant. But these are actual cards that you could see conceivably in your LGS, right? Like it's not out of the realm of possibility. Also, having a video that explains a full game to a new player isn't like as good as obviously learning from other people at your LGS and going in person and getting people to teach you, but like especially for games that have online versions like Arena or like Master Duel or whatever, like having a good tutorial in that is preferred, but absent to that, there should be a good tutorial online, right, that you can look at to get an understanding of the game.
Insulates against cards like Ash Blossom, which may negate the effects of cards that add a card to hand. This is the full skeleton of Yu-Gi-Oh! Action, reaction, action. Now that you know everything there is to know about the cards, let's talk about the duel. The goal of a game of Duel Monsters is to win. You can do this one of three ways. Either by bringing an opponent's life points from their starting total of 8,000.
Yeah, it's interesting, the discussion between the chain and the stack. I think they both have their own benefits and disadvantages. One definitely prioritizes advantage to the reactor, while as one I think benefits more as the proactive player, which I think is the Yu-Gi-Oh version. And I think there's good benefits to both sides. That's something that Yu-Gi-Oh does that's different and unique, which I think is a good thing.
To 0 by dealing damage with your monsters, spells, and traps, causing an opponent to draw a card while they have none left in their main deck, or by resolving an alternate win condition.
Everyone pog, it's Exodia, it's a leg, oh my god!
99% of the duels you play will be decided by life point damage. The remaining 1% will likely be determined by milling. A popular deck at the time of recording, Runic has the ability to pivot to this win con in board states where they've completely lost control of the field. But despite its rarity, the win condition that looms largest in the psyche of your average duelist is the alternate win condition. It's not hard to see why. The very first complete duel played on screen in the Yu-Gi-Oh anime involves Yugi drawing all 5 pieces of the puzzle, and the alternate win condition Exodia obliterating a game he was otherwise losing. In fact, the first release of the head of Exodia in Japan was responsible for a devastating riot. At a tournament at the Tokyo Dome, attendees were
This
told
is a
in
cool
advance
fun
they
fact,
could
and
pick
we
up a
are
premium
pretty
pack
late into the
containing
video now,
the
58
only
minutes.
ever print of Exodia's head that would ever be made.
This doesn't help
was
you
enough
at all
for
understand why the game is fun, right?
65,000 people to swarm the dome.
It just shows you that the game was
overwhelming a
popular.
single vendor with nowhere near enough.
Oh, hello, out of
distribute.
characters.
Since then, these
Fancy
alternate
seeing you
win
this evening.
conditions have only been playable a few times in
Have you
total,
seen
and
my
mostly
recent
by
video?
the same guy over and over
A
again.
little negative on the whole
So I'm
Yu-Gi-Oh
here
thing.
with
You might not like
Jeff
it.
Leonard, probably the
This
individual
is
more
gotta be the best part of the video, right? You gotta love Jeff Leonard. I mean, this is, I talk about it in my video. Any game that can support a player like this is a good sign.
responsible for getting cards hit than any other. I see you've got your 2 namesakes there in the background.
That's right.
So you are known
Yu-Gi-Oh is
in the
definitely different
community
than any
for
other
a
game. You're
number of
absolutely right,
things,
Fleming.
but probably the most important one is playing the most frustrating decks known to man. One of which
A great sign,
centered
by the
around
way.
the card
That
Final
everyone loves this
Countdown
guy who plays
and
really
his
annoying decks.
associated partner in crime, Mystic Mine, and the other centered around Exodia.
The Jeff Leonard
the
anime
Forbidden
episode?
One. Two
Ooh,
different
I think I
alt-win
might have
conditions.
seen it once.
How did you use them over the course of your Yu-Gi-Oh career?
Finding Mystic Mine was like the perfect card because I had always played stun decks against my son Jason's combo decks. But then after that, after those years that Mystic Mine was around and I got to inflict so much pain,
Yeah,
then I
watch my
had to
new
find
video.
something.
You can go watch it now if
different
you
to
want,
do.
or you can
And
stick
that's
around.
When,
Basically, my video is mostly talking about not specifically this MBT video, but also talking in general about Yu-Gi-Oh tutorials in general and how I feel like they're lacking, which is a lot what I'm talking about. You can go see that if you want, or you can stick around here. I think that I make a lot of points here that I'm probably going to make in that video too. It's up to you.
Jason finally said to me, "Hey, why don't you just play FTK?"
Also,
decks?
yeah,
There's
this guy
not
is
one-
perfect. This reminds me exactly of playing Magic with my dad. Like, it's the exact same thing, and that's something you want to have in every community, is the ability to play with your friends and family. Like, that's the whole thing.
a lot of hand traps in the format. Why don't you just try to play an FTK deck? So I played Bish Balkan FTK for a while, and that was a ton of fun. And then along came this Exodia combo, and as soon as we saw the combo, we said, "Stop right there. We're going to throw everything at it to make it happen."
So you very famously played this deck in a feature match against
Yes.
one of the best players in the game. And what was that like? Was it cool to have the crowd hyping you up as you searched Exodia pieces?
It is pretty funny to have
Absolutely amazing.
a gamer,
you just
dad,
can't
or grandpa.
imagine
That is awesome.
the feeling of being on that
I don't know how
stage.
into
And
League of
what
Legends you
was
guys are, but there's a
kinda
League of Legends
lucky
guy
about
who
it
plays
was
Urgot. He's like
our
a grandpa.
round got started late.
Very fun to watch.
And the buzz in the room was getting around. And by the time we were in game 3, I mean, there were so many people up there and they knew what was going on. And then just the fact that just somebody
I think it's
mentioned
Gaming
one
Grandpa or
more
something,
piece,
something like
and that got going in the crowd. And it was so fun.
One more piece. The crowd is chanting, "One more piece." This is a historical moment here in Indianapolis. Oh my goodness.
And then Justin Singh was just like the perfect opponent for me. When round 4 started and I saw his name on the list, I said, well, this is it. It's either going to happen now or it's not going to happen. And so when they brought us up on the stage, it was just fantastic.
That's fantastic. You mentioned playing with your son. How did you get into Yu-Gi-Oh?
Oh, we've been playing ever since he was 5 years old and started watching the show when it first came out. We got the 2 structure decks. He had the Yugi, I had the Kaiba, and we've just been playing off and on for.
Yeah, getting FTK'd through Ash and Herald is pretty sick. Welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh! You die through interaction. Hey, you are the play, right? You play 2 cards. What do you think of utilizing retro formats to teach modern Yu-Gi-Oh? Like a middle ground between a structured duel and a modern match. It's an alright idea. It can work. I feel like there should be a more dedicated thing, but it's better than what we have now, is not only what I say. This guy is the W dad. Absolutely. Big if true.
20 plus
also, I think
years.
an important thing he mentions here is they start from watching the anime, which I think is where a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players start from, and a big strength that it has to pull on such powerful source material. Like, nobody gets into Magic from the Magic anime because there is no Magic anime. It's a big strength to the card game.
And go into YCSs, just recently, really competitively.
Simpler archetypes also
when he
does help
probably
a
turned
lot.
16, 17. So the last 10 years, just really been so much fun
Well, you don't
for
want-
us to
you
hang
could want
out
them to get too
and have
attached to
something
the
do
simpler archetype, but you
together
do want them
and
to
talk
branch
about
out to
just
other archetypes
basically
too.
every day.
That's
talk
a lot of the
about
fun of Yu-Gi-Oh.
And it's a great thing.
Well, I have to ask you one more question. You're known for playing Mystic Mine. You're known for playing Exodia. Have you ever considered playing like a normal deck?
No chance, Joseph. Let me tell you something.
Why would you play a normal deck?
55-year-old brain works a whole.
Okay, don't teach your kids Yu-Gi-Oh because Yu-Gi-Oh has a bad rap. Extremely fair take. I love a lot of parts of the Yu-Gi-Oh community, especially online here. It's like way better than I thought it would be, to be honest, when I was first getting into Yu-Gi-Oh. But in person, like a lot of the locals I've been to, a lot of the Yu-Gi-Oh players are not the finest folks, if you don't mind me saying.
Whole lot different.
Yeah, the anime is why duel is
25-year-old brain.
Absolutely.
You'll get there one of these days, and you'll find out. But Jason told me, hey, you can probably remember one combo, right? One combo, and I was like, I don't know if I can, but I did learn one combo. I was able to practice. Remember, I was
See,
on
the fact that he can actually learn one combo as a 55-year-old man is impressive and good, and a sign that Yu-Gi-Oh can work for people who have a harder time, getting into the game at its extremely advanced stage. And having these stun decks and other things, like having options for this kind of player is important.
MCS with you, and I wanted to do it after we got home from YCS Indianapolis.
I'm taking it extremely
I was able to pull off
personally.
Exodia on Master Duel.
It's okay,
and
out of characters. All you gotta do is make your own Yu-Gi-Oh! Tutorial video that I can make another Yu-Gi-Oh! Tutorial bad video about, and then we can just produce infinite content together. This is the strat, right? Like, this is what's gonna happen when all the streamers react to my video or whatever. This is the play. Actually, there is a Magic anime now. There is? Oh, I thought they were working on that for a long time with like Netflix or whatever, and they just like never happened.
Remember you saying on the telecast, if this boomer can remember to push the buttons, he's going to win this duel. And that's exactly what happens, is I have to remember the right buttons to push.
Well, congratulations on an
that is a problem with
unbelievable
simple
achievement.
archetypes
Thank
that
you
you
so
can
much
get
for
attached
taking
to
some
them,
time out of your day to
Merfolk
talk to
style.
me.
The
You bet.
content
Thanks,
Ouroboros
Joseph.
infinity
I
content.
should note that duelists playing competitively are only given a certain amount of time to complete a best 2 out of 3 match. If that time runs out, both players lose. While each duel is different, they all start the same way.
Okay, this rule I forgot he put this in the video, to be honest. He like glanced over that, but that's like really bad, right? Both players lose when you go to time. Like, there's no time rules because we just couldn't figure out a way to make time rules work in our game. So I guess we'll just have everyone lose. Like, this is not a good solution to the way the game's supposed to work.
Shuffle your deck, then give your opponent's deck a shuffle or cut as well. Roll a die to decide who starts, and you're off. Shuffling is a contentious point among Yugists. I don't know if it's a genetic memory from growing up watching Bandit Keith or whatever, but still, it's always a good practice to make sure your opponent's deck is sufficiently randomized. After determining who...
This is another thing that is present in Yu-Gi-Oh! Honestly, is less bad than it seems. I'm sure it's less bad than it seems, because it seems really bad, but realistically, most people aren't going to try to take advantage of this. You're trying to win the game, so you're not going to run into it, but like, it has the option to be really bad. I'm sure no one's going to think it's really bad until we have some like really public event where it like goes horribly wrong, and then it's a big deal. Same as the Mulligan rule of Magic, actually, where it doesn't seem so bad, and then LSV Mulligan to 4 in the final game of the Pro Tour, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, this Mulligan rule might be kind of bad, guys. We might take a look at this. Also, I think it's interesting he mentions the cheating here, like how a lot of people cheat. I have thought about making a video talking about cheating and like what cheating is like in different card games, because if you were to pick a card game to cheat in, to improve your odds of winning the most, it is definitely Yu-Gi-Oh! Cheating will help you win in any card game, but in Yu-Gi-Oh! You have to cheat probably for the least amount of time to actually get away with it, or the least amount of cards to actually win. In general, if you just like have your opponent have no hand traps in their opener, you'll win pretty easily. And you only have to do that the one time because they only draw 5 cards. It's something that I would require thinking on a little bit more, but it could definitely be an interesting video.
First, it's time to proceed through the
It's the
phases
least bad
of the
amongst
game.
bag
First up
options.
is the draw phase. No draw on
It
the
is
first
not
turn. Otherwise,
great,
the turn
but
player draws a
it's
card
better
from the top
than
of their
the
deck.
other stuff they
then
had, to be
proceed
fair.
the next phase. This liminal phase actually serves an impressive purpose. It's the first time...
Yeah, it has
an
been
opponent
fine for
can-
3 months. Like, it's not a huge issue. It's definitely better than just going to time all the time and having the tournament run super long. But like, it feels really clunky to me. And I'm sure, like I said with the Mulligan thing for Magic, like, it's not going to be a big deal until it is.
Activate a quick effect during the turn. Often, players who want to shotgun an important effect
Yeah,
as
exactly.
fast
The same
as
thing with
possible
OTG,
will
where
do
they
so in
screw
the
up
draw
the
phase.
pricing, and then,
Trust
like,
me, there's
everyone gets
nothing
mad
more
about the
devastating
rules.
than asking draw phase and seeing your opponent smirk and send a dimension shifter to the graveyard.
This is also something I completely hate. Like, in games like Magic, they have cards that are called ley lines, where you will just put them in play from your hand at the start of the game. But almost every time when you put a ley line in, it's something that contributes to your strategy. It doesn't matter what your opponent is doing. I'm putting this guy in because I get it for free by putting it in my deck and having my opening hand, and it gives me a benefit, like gaining me extra life or making my cards multicolor or whatever. In Yu-Gi-Oh!, almost all of these are like Maxi or Dimension Shifter or something, where you just like, you don't know what your opponent is playing, but no matter what deck your opponent's on, you're just going to fire that guy off, and then, oops, you don't get to play the game for your turn. Good luck going first. Oopsie daisies. Like, it's a really bad feel for you as the player for getting screwed by it, but also like if you fire the dimension shifter against them and then it just like doesn't interact with their strategy, that's horrible too. Obviously it will, because like every deck does, or almost every deck does, but like you get the idea, right?
Next is the standby phase. This is a pass-through phase, and frequently doesn't matter at all.
Bro, with Flying
Specific
Shifter,
cards will often reference
it's a tutorial.
costs
You
that must be
you can't
paid
make fun
during
of him
the
for
standby phase,
using Tree
and
Barn
like
Draw.
the draw phase, it's an opportunity for an
He loves
opponent to
Stratos, okay?
activate a quick
It's
effect.
his favorite card.
Third is the main phase. The main phase is where most of the action of a turn will happen. It's the time in which you may deploy your cards to set up before launching an attack. During this phase, you may perform your normal summon, perform as many special summons as you like using the effects or abilities of your cards, Change the battle position of a monster, but only if the monster was not played this turn, and only once
Far and
that
away, the
turn,
most played Leyline
set
is literally macro. No, and that's not true. That's not true. Leyline of the Void has seen a lot of play, but like the Leyline of the Guild Pack is seeing tons more play in Modern. There's multiple Leylines that are present in Standard right now that do see play, like the life gain one or the one that doubles your spells. Like Leyline of the Void is also like just a graveyard hate piece, which means you're not going to see it in game one unless the metagame is ruined by a graveyard deck like Hogak was. Like, and that was a good example of a deck that was playing at Yu-Gi-Oh level speed. So the only way to beat it was to bring Shifter into your main deck. Like, kind of an obvious comparison, right?
Spell and trap cards in your spell and trap zone. Activate as many spell
issue
cards
with
as
Yu-Gi-Oh!
you like,
videos from non-Yu-Gi-Oh!
and as many
hockey
trap
in the
cards
games.
as you like, provided they've been set for at least a turn. And activate the effects
It's
of your
interesting that you
monsters.
say that, Flaming Sebo, because I think a lot of non-Yu-Gi-Oh! Creators misinterpreting the Yu-Gi-Oh! Rules or the way the game is or how it feels. It's just because they can't get themselves into the game either. So they have this feeling from like playing Yu-Gi-Oh! As a kid or whenever they started playing the game. And when they get back into it, these feelings come bubbling up into a video, like the Acme video, for example. And it's like really, it feels wrong and different, but they have no easy way to explain it because they don't know the history or the way Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually is. So they just kind of spew it all out there kind of haphazardly with no real aim, which makes their video feel aimless.
Once you're done with your setup, you can proceed to the battle phase, unless it's the first turn.
I mean, there's definitely
This
problems with
one's
the lifeline
exactly
way they were
what's
doing
written
it
on the tin.
before.
In the battle phase, your
Had a
monsters
lot of
battle.
card C play just for that
There are
reason.
4 sub-steps
But
to
double
this
loss
phase.
also sucks.
First
Like
is
they're
the
both bad.
start step, in which
I
players
think we can
can
agree on
activate
that, right?
spell
Like they're both
speed to
not
effects
the
before
best
an
way
attack
you
is
could have
declared. Next is the
drawn
battle
game.
step. The turn player will pick one attack position monster from their side of the field and one monster on the opponent's side of the field, then declare an attack. To determine the winner of the
Okay,
battle,
chat,
look at the...
how long did he take to get to attacking in Yu-Gi-Oh? Like something you're going to do literally every single game. We're an hour and 5 minutes in, and we have just learned now how we attacking with your monster. You will do this in every single game of Yu-Gi-Oh you play. Why is it so far into this video? Please put this near the beginning.
attack and defense stats of the 2 monsters who are battling. If both monsters
Yeah,
are in
Burn-
attack position,
Burn and
the
life gain
monster
became
with
a
the
lot
higher
more
attack
common
wins,
thanks to
the losing monster
the
is
life point
destroyed,
rules.
and the difference between the 2 stats is subtracted from the loser's life point total. If there's a tie, both monsters are destroyed and no player takes damage, with an exception for 0 attack monsters who cannot crash. If one monster is in attack and one is in defense position, use the defense position stat for the defense position monster.
Yeah, I do feel like
If it is
having
le-
decks that want to prolong because they have a good time win con is also something you don't really want to have in your game. But I also feel like having an opponent that is down a game, just like try to draw it out for as long as possible, win the second game, and then, you know, have that be the case. Like it is in both players' interests to not go to time and have them both lose. But also, I mean, MVP made a whole video about this that I thought was pretty informative, where he talks about how like could be actively harmful if you just say, I'm not conceding no matter what. You have the option to concede to me, and if they concede to you, you get the win. And, you know, the tiebreakers may be better for them. And if they don't concede to you, you both lose, and you both just get fucked.
Less than the attack stat, the defense position monster is destroyed, but the player does not take the difference as battle damage.
I think he ordered by how
Finally,
interested he
if the
found it rather
defense
than how
stat is
important they are.
equal to
True.
or higher than the
he still
attack
put the
stat,
basic stuff at the
both
beginning.
monsters survive.
I guess it
The
did have to have
attacking
some
player loses
semblance
the
of
difference
order.
between the attack stat and the defense stat. If one player has no monsters on their side of the field, a player may attack their life points
Yeah,
directly,
I don't know-
dealing the entire attack stat as
I don't
damage.
really know why it has to be so complicated. Like, the basic stuff makes sense. Your attack goes against their defense when they're in defense. Your attack goes against their attack when it's attack. Everything is trample unless it's in defense. Like, most of this stuff makes some very basic sense. But then all of, like, the weird, complicated layering stuff is like, why does this have to be in the game? Other than, like, that's
This
the way you
stuff
made
is
it.
pretty intuitive. Big monster beat little monster. Defense
Like he says,
position
this stuff
defense,
makes a lot of sense.
attack
It's
position
pretty easy.
attacks. What's less intuitive is the order in which these monsters deal damage. Let's talk about the damage step. The damage step is performed immediately after the battle step ends if an attack is still occurring. Like Magic the Gathering's Layers, this is to resolve finicky rulings weirdness that have built up like rust over 3 decades of carving a rule set into an understandable shape. But unlike Magic the Gathering's Layers, this one does come up pretty frequently.
It is annoying in those videos sometimes that CGB, like, or CGB and Simo, and like Simo doesn't like the modern game that much and doesn't seem that interested in it. But like, first off, I can't really blame him. I feel somewhat similar to him, obviously. But also, like, he's one of the top content creators. Shouldn't they like the main game? Like, sure, like CGB doesn't love how standard is and has standard lots of problems because standards are a rotating format. There are some standard formats he really likes, right? And you can still play control. It's not like you play control and you automatically lose every single game. It's way harder in best of one, which is the format he plays, but like it's still a thing you can make a video about. This is definitely the most confusing part of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like it doesn't have to be here too.
Fixed it. Please have a seat.
Usually, duelists will shortcut this or not mention it at all, but it unfortunately does have pretty significant gameplay ramifications. It's divided into 5 substeps.
I mean, that part is definitely
Let's
my base,
begin
but
with the
it makes
start
sense.
of the damage step. As a general rule, once a duelist declares they're moving to the damage step, certain new rules apply. Duelists may no longer activate spell speed to effects, unless those cards have a provision that states they may activate during the damage step.
I'm just imagining how good it would be if there was like a cube version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you had like different archetypes that had overlap and stuff, just like a vintage cube would, with like different traps and things that were like staples that you could pick, and oh, that would be so sick. And then you could like play it, like you could make whatever type of game you want in Master Duel. Like it'd be so easy to do. Why don't they do that? Well, I know why they don't do that, but you know.
An exception to this rule is spell trap cards or quick effects that directly alter the attack or defense of a monster, cards that negate the activation, not the effect, of a card or effect, and mandatory effects. Note that spell speed 3 effects specifically can be activated at any time during the damage step. Next is before damage calculation. During this step, if the monster you're attacking is face down, you flip it up. Third is perform damage calculation. From this point forward, you may not activate cards that modify the attack and defense stats of monsters. During this stage, you determine if a monster has been destroyed by battle, though it is not yet sent to the graveyard. Fourth is after damage calculation. Destroyed monsters are still not sent to the graveyard. This is a step specifically for the benefit of cards that mention it. And finally, end of the damage step. Monsters that have been destroyed are now sent to the graveyard. Once there are no longer any effects to apply, we once again return to the battle step. The damage step plays a finicky role in Yu-Gi-Oh! With clever use of your points of interaction, you can manage your individual negation in such a way that your opponent's responses are very limited.
Oh my god!
It impacts card quality too. Cards like Forbidden Droplet are much more playable as a result of their applications during this weird, unrespondable step. One of the most debilitating things
well, here's the thing, Zixort. Like it's a thing where obviously they could monetize it and make more money off of it, but like it would require work from a person to make, and they would probably see more funds if they just funnel that person into making more versions of new cards or arts or special things that you can buy in the store. That probably makes more money than having a draft mode that could be really good and interesting if it's made well, but if it's made poorly, no one will play and everyone will hate on in the community, right? Like, it's a bigger risk.
The duelist in combat is the phrase, proceed to the damage step.
Oh yeah, I definitely think Genesis is better than Advanced. I think that one's not even close to being argued. Like, also, explaining your decision making is a good sign
to talk about
for your
the
game, right?
damage step, something with which you are
Gage's
intimately
involved me
familiar.
for a while. You know where that clip is
Damage
from? Unlucky, bro. Unlucky.
Yes, I am quite intimate with this. For those of you who are fans of the progression series.
Yeah, I do like having
Wonder
Wonderman slower. Genesis is much better.
A doozy, that's for sure.
To give people who are kind of newer to the game an overview,
we stand our bald king.
Is the damage step?
So the damage step is this weird part of when you're attacking, or I guess if your opponent's attacking you.
A great thing to put in your tutorial. The guy, oh, this is like a weird part of when something is happening in the thing with the damage.
There's multiple sub-steps of the damage step that basically, to boil it down simply, certain cards can be activated at certain points within the damage step, and once you pass some of those thresholds, you're no longer...
I'm not going to blame Simo for not explaining this because, like, it's not his video, and also MBT already explained the different stages of the damage step and what things do, what where, but, like, shouldn't this, like, be not in your tutorial video where someone who is super familiar with the game is having a hard time explaining the way that the game works to the new player audience? Like, come on.
Able to activate certain cards or effects, but it's a very timed window that certain cards can be applied, and your knowledge of it can actually make their
Why are we listening to Uncle Guy play Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! In
You
years?
personally have spent a lot more
Because
time
he's
in the damage
cool.
step than most duelists.
Yeah, good question.
Is that correct?
To boil it down simply unintelligible.
We did Prague Season 1. I played Blackwing, I think, for like 40 episodes in a row. And
He's here to tell you
Kalute
that
is
he
one of
loves
the,
Blackwing
the
and Kalute.
all-stars of the damage step alongside with our good old friend Honest.
I mean, I'm I'm a big
back during
Blackwing
that
fan.
time as
You
well.
can't
Those
rip
are two
Blackwing
of
away from me.
the classic examples of the damage step. You hear those two fateful words from the opponent when you go to attack, and they go damage step, and you want to cry your eyes out because you know you're gonna get bodied.
Yeah, this video is definitely meant to be more than a tutorial, which is obviously the case, but like that part of the video I think is quite good where he goes through the history and stuff in general, but like if he titled the video like how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And this is the video called how to actually play Yu-Gi-Oh! If you look up how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! This is the first thing that comes up. And if you don't know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And you try to learn from the internet, you're either going to get a really short 3-minute explanation of how it works or a content creator video that's not going to teach you after you play through the Master Duel tutorial and don't understand how to play because the Master Duel tutorial doesn't teach you either. I feel like this video would have been much better if he just cut all of the tutorial stuff and then just had a video where he just talked to a bunch of streamers and talked about the origins of the game. Because at the beginning of this video, if you don't remember, he also tried to justify this video as like trying to get you into the game and explain why the game is good and a thing that you should play. But so far, he's just kind of explained how the things happen, not why they're fun, why it's engaging, why people play so much, why are there so many content creators, why are there people talking about this? Like, he didn't really justify it in any meaningful way. Then the anime is cool, special summoning is fun. Like, he's mostly just talking to people who do the thing, but not explaining why you should as a person watching.
Let's just get a hypothetical going. Let's say you have a card like Shora the Blue Flame, and
This
your opponent
video
has a
does feel like a
1900
love letter,
attack
which
point
is fine.
monster
I
on
love
their
love
side of the
letters, but
field.
like,
what does deploying a card like
you know,
Kalute look
title
like?
it like that?
So for those who
And
are
then put that at the title?
Kalute is a hand
He
trap.
did put
of
it at the
sorts
title.
that
Okay, to be
says-
fair, he did put at the title that this is a love letter to Yu-Gi-Oh's community, which I think he does a pretty good job of. But it doesn't explain anything to a new person. So, like, if you're not already in the Yu-Gi-Oh community, seeped in terminology and knowledge, like, you're not going to get anything from this video.
During the damage step, you can discard it from your hand to the graveyard, and it gives a Blackwing monster
Toss
1400
is
attack.
peak Yu-Gi-Oh! I do
This
like
is
Toss
relevant because when you declare an attack, on attack declaration, there are certain cards that can be used. But once your opponent passes priority over to you, that they don't have any response to the attack declaration, that is when you can, in the damage step, deploy your Kalute. So it's after this type of effect has bypassed, essentially. So now they can no longer use
That's why I like
these
Yu-Gi-Oh!
types of
You
trap
can have big
effects
Unga
to be
Bunga
able
decks
to stop
in
you
every card game.
combat, unless
I feel like
they have
Yu-Gi-Oh! is
a
one of the
card that
least
can be
Unga Bunga
activated
games.
in the damage step itself.
But you can't
All
do
right,
that.
well, thank you so much for hopping on. We'll probably just cut a whole bunch of clips of Gage going here.
Damage step, I will.
Yeah, definitely don't show this video if you want to actually teach someone
it's
how
now
to play Yu-Gi-Oh!
3,700. I'll go ahead and attack with Boris.
I will say, this video is great. It's well created, it's well scripted, the audio is great.
Damage
It just
step.
like doesn't do the thing
I'll
it says on the
activate
tin.
Kalute.
And a lot of the stuff
I'm
he says at the
actually
beginning of
gonna
the video
Kalute
don't hold true to
and
the
damage
end.
step.
Okay, so I'll take another 14.
So the
And
attack
I
will
think
continue.
part of the reason I don't like this video conceptually the most is because it's so close. Like, the video is really well made, and the video has a lot of really interesting, important stuff that I like talking about in Yu-Gi-Oh! But, like, it is so close to hitting both the tutorial side and the history side if the tutorial side was actually focused on more than the history side.
And I'm actually going to take... so then damage step, I just Kalute here.
Yeah, you got it.
I'll activate a second Kalute. Good game, buddy!
Back to the battle phase. Each attack position monster may attack one time. Once you're out of attacks,
it's
or
about
if you
progression
decide you don't
series,
want to
which is
declare
important.
anymore, you enter the end step of the battle phase, another opportunity to activate quick effects. After the battle phase is over, then you enter main phase 2. This post-battle main phase is identical to the one you took before battle. This one's weird philosophically. Main phase 2 serves a pretty important role in Yu-Gi-Oh! Often, your opponent's setup turn will result in a few monsters specifically designed to curb your ability to set up yourself. So you'll set up minimally, run over said monsters in battle, then do a full setup afterwards. This is unquestionably a holdover.
I mean, he should have made one tutorial vid and then made a history video to show the new players that. Here's the funny thing. He did that. He literally uploaded a 3-minute video showing you how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! In like less than 3 minutes or whatever, where he goes through the very basic explanation, similar to Simo's old video about how to play through Yu-Gi-Oh! And then this video is supposed to be like, hey, did you watch my video and not understand how to play Yu-Gi-Oh? Don't worry, this is the video for you. That was the whole like intro section was for, is the guy who went to the LGS, got his ass clapped, and then like, you know, was trying to understand like what did I miss something in the tutorial? What was wrong? And then this video was supposed to be that one. Like, he made the whole joke about that first video where he's like linking to this one, and then he didn't stick the landing on that. It's like, come on.
From Yu-Gi-Oh's days as a Magic the Gathering ripoff, and in future products like Duel Links and Rush Duel, they've done away with it entirely. Importantly, you can
Yeah, that
only
3-minute video is like a trailer and joke, and I think it sets up really well into this video. After I watched it the first time, and then I watched this video, and I'm like, oh great, this is the real tutorial that's going to explain to me like how to play the game. I'm really excited for this. And then he goes into a lot of stuff that I like, but doesn't actually serve as the tutorial part, which is fine. Like the video is clearly well made, but yeah, I got 4 friends and they don't understand the dash. They thought it was super relevant. I think that's why he probably put it so late into the video, but explaining the basics of battle was probably something you should put
form
earlier.
a main phase 2 if you've performed a battle phase. So you will not have one of these on turn 1
Luke part is really
or on
fun
any
to have
turn
me.
where you
Yep.
declined to enter the battle phase. Finally, you'll enter the end phase. Once again, this is an opportunity to activate spell speed 2 effects. The turn player will also need to discard down to 6 cards in hand if they're carrying more than that. And that's a turn. Your opponent proceeds through the same steps, and you'll continue until someone hits a win condition. And that's how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! But it's only really half the story. It is how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! But I may as well have just told you how to make a meal you have no intention of ever cooking, or how to fix a car you don't have. Becoming integrated into Yu-Gi-Oh! Isn't a process of mastering the damage step or ensuring you never miss the timing. It's a kind of cultural osmosis, entering a community and finding out which of the 1,000 niches you'd like to fit into, or if you'd like to carve one out yourself. If you want to take the plunge and actually start...
I definitely agree with what you say out of characters. It doesn't have to be 2 videos. You could make a video. Like I said, this video was close to actually doing it. It blends both the elements together in a way that I think makes sense. The video is already really long, so I would kind of hesitate to make it longer. I just would have made more of the examples about the modern game right now that the was actually going to end up playing with than about like, you know, all this retro format stuff or about damage stuff that doesn't matter or about like how important the flip monster is. Like, it's really, really hard to summarize effectively how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! From every element. I don't think you need to put everything in there, but you should probably put the stuff that someone is going to see if they log on to Master Duel. Like, he's going to explain the different ways to play the game on here, and you're still not going to know how to play those without another person explaining it to you.
Playing the game, you have a few options in terms of how. Master Duel is the gold standard of online play. This client was developed by Konami and is completely above board. The downside is it costs money. While it's very free-to-play friendly, you can't exactly hop to a different deck on a dime. What's more, it lags behind paper card releases by a pretty substantial margin, about 3 months out from the TCG. But it's not your only option. When faced with the prospect of being a cheap bastard, Yu-Gi-Oh! Players suddenly become rocket scientists. For the entirety of Yu-Gi-Oh's existence, there have existed questionably legal free simulators to play the game.
Questionably
If you
legal
want
is
to try out
funny.
cards immediately, Edo Pro and Yu-Gi-Oh! Omega are where you should be. These are automatic simulators, like Master Duel, and as a result are good for players that aren't yet comfortable with their cards' incredibly long effects. Both are completely free to play and download, community created, and are updated extremely quickly. Finally,
definitely agree with
Dueling
that,
Book
Hester.
is an in-browser simulator
This is
and
the kind of
likely
stuff
the
I wanted to
largest
talk about.
simulator at the time of recording. It's what everyone from weekend warriors to professional players use to improve at the game, and it's all
I love
manual,
Dueling Book.
which means you'll actually have to know your stuff before you load in. So rather than a
Yeah, Dueling Book
step-by-step
is
guide
good,
through
yeah.
a Snake Eyes setup, here's a more realistic example of how a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Plays out. It's 2001, and you've just achieved the miracle of consciousness. Only a few short years after realizing you're in control of your own actions, you make the decision to watch an episode of a show on Kids WB. It looks sort of like Pokemon, but edgier. You're enraptured. You beg your parents for packs of overpriced cardboard, and you jam casuals on the playground until your teacher gets a call from a concerned mother about
Dueling Book
devil
does suck
worship
for
and
new players.
decides
As
to
a person who's
intervene,
played Yu-Gi-Oh! for a long
taking
time,
your
it's great,
cards
but-
away. In the years following, you keep Yu-Gi-Oh! In the back of your mind, but don't admit to yourself you found it fun or engaging. A decade later, you're
For all
pawing
the
at your
scrappy
phone during a
business
period of
practices they have, Konami
unemployment
is
and
pretty
see
good for letting
Yugi
blatant
staring back at you
violations
from
slide.
the App Store.
This is true. This is true. It is a good thing that they let them be alive. Reminds me a lot of how Showdown works for Pokemon, which is another interesting case. I wonder why Nintendo's usually never okay with that kind of stuff. So
Duel Links
the UI
is
does
one
suck
of
for
the
it, which
top
is why
downloaded
a lot of people
applications
like
this
Master
month.
Duel.
Figuring it couldn't
Makes
be
me wish it
worse
was
for you
better.
than TikTok, you download it and give it a go. And you're immediately back.
TikTok a thing in
You
2016?
can't believe how much the game has
that old?
changed. When you were playing, games lasted dozens of turns, but now you're comboing off from the first second of every duel. What's more, you're having fun.
You're having fun. Why should I play the game? What is the thing that's drawing me, the new player watching this video for the first time into Yu-Gi-Oh? You're having fun playing the game. okay, like the game is gonna explain that to me when I play it, but like, could you explain to me like how it does any of that? Yeah, it can also be extremely. I do remember having it crash multiple times on me for Dueling Book. That is annoying.
A few months into a daily Duel Links grind, you see an in-app
This
ad.
video reads more like an H Bomber Guy midlife crisis essay. True. Isn't the top comment just saying he's part of like RedTube now or whatever that is? This is how it feels like it's supposed to be, which I'm a fan of. I'm a fan of that, honestly. I'm a fan of that. He's allowed to make this kind of video. It's really well made, fantastic, but like, just next time make it the tutorial parts more tutorially.
Or Master Duel, the Steam client for the real version of the card game.
I always want you to do like a fighting game in card form. That's a better explanation. I wish you put that in here.
Learning curve, but you persevere, due in part to a desire to prove to people online you won't get filtered. While looking up guides on YouTube, you run into a Twitch streamer. You start checking out their community, and soon you're spamming Pop da Baby memes in Farfa's chat. You start making friends from Twitch chat, from Discord communities, from Pet Deck Facebook groups. Finally, one day, one duelist reaches out to you. Hey, we're gonna try and go to the next YCS. You in? Your friends book the cheapest hotel near the convention center they can find, and try to sneak 9 people into a 2-person reservation. You stay up late in the business center, trying out different lines versus your friends' different strategies. The next day, you head to the convention, sit down in front of someone you've never met before, wish them good luck, and that's...
Okay, so this is the end of the video. Emotional ending. You have the music building. It's really good. Didn't he start off that section with saying, like, this is how you're supposed to get into Yu-Gi-Oh? And then it just, like, has a scenario where a person gets into Yu-Gi-Oh who already liked Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, he goes at the beginning here and says, like, he already liked to play Yu-Gi-Oh, right?
Free to play, and a decade later, you're pawing in control of your own actions. You make the decision to watch an episode of a show on Kids WB. It looks
like you already watched the show.
Sort of like Pokemon, but edgier. You're enraptured. You beg your parents for packs of overpriced cardboard, and you jam casuals on the playground until you're...
Like, this is a person who's already a fan of the game. Like, these are the people that should be the freest possible catch. If you're a person who watched the Pokemon anime as a kid, it's not that big of a stretch to get you to buy the Pokemon video game because you already like Pokemon. If you watched the Yu-Gi-Oh anime as a kid, it shouldn't be that big of a stretch to get you to play the Yu-Gi-Oh card game, especially because Yu-Gi-Oh is about the card game, right? Like, most people in this category should be your free catch, I think. So the fact that they're not, and they need a video like this to convince them to do it and like get into it with other people in the community is like kind of a negative sign. Like, communities are great at bringing people in together, and Yu-Gi-Oh community has a great one that brings a lot of people together in playing, just like Magic or Pokemon or any other card game community for that matter that you can find. But that's not the main drawing point, in my opinion. Like, you can say Yu-Gi-Oh community is great and it's a great reason to get them the game, which is true, but I could say that about any card game. I could say that about Magic or Pokemon. Like, what makes Yu-Gi-Oh specifically special in comparison to just getting into a community of people who play League of Legends or CSGO or whatever? Like, there needs to be a little bit more meat on the bone here, in my opinion, in terms of like what is being talked about. Like, the video was great and does a great job describing a lot of the good parts of Yu-Gi-Oh, which I think is awesome. But like, that is something you could make. I feel like you could copy and paste this video onto almost any form of popular media and it would probably serve a similar function. Like, where's the Yu-Gi-Oh specific stuff besides the anime being in the 90s and it being based off a manga, which you could also say about like Pokemon? Not exactly Pokemon, because Pokemon is the video game, but you know what I mean. Like, there's, other than the literal specifics, like, there's no explanation for why Yu-Gi-Oh is special other than what the gameplay is, which he doesn't do a great job explaining either, because he doesn't explain that it's about comboing and specialing that much, other than the one line where he goes, special, 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 this is what my deck does, you do the same thing every time. Right? Kind of rambling a bit here, should probably keep up with chat here. I feel like Stigma feels there about combos. I can't be mad at MBT, I already made the own tutorial video last year. Yeah, like, not everyone can be... I honestly, I can't be mad at MBT. If I was mad at MBT, I wouldn't have made that tutorial video as fast as I did, and I wouldn't be on the stream now talking about it. This is a good video, like, genuinely. It's so well made, well researched. Like, he has put a lot of work into this, and it shows. It's really well done. That's why, I guess, what I'm wishing was that it was just a little more. Like, this tutorial could have been the thing that if I try to get my friend into Yu-Gi-Oh, I can go, hey, there's this 1 hour long YouTube video. I know Yu-Gi-Oh is really complicated, but you watch this video and then you'll be able to play with me. That's all I want to have, is something that I can give to somebody else that'll have them understand how to play Yu-Gi-Oh without me needing to explain to them. That would be even great for my videos. For my videos, I talk about Pokemon and Magic and Hearthstone. And for each of those games, if someone wants to learn the game, I have to just go, oh, hey, there's a free online client you can download, and it tells you everything you need to know. You don't need to go anywhere else to understand the game. And for Yu-Gi-Oh, I can't do that, which sucks. As you remember the cover Seagawk. I think you just put Seagawk in for the Seagawk joke, right? Like, it's a good joke, but like it takes a lot of runtime. It isn't for everyone, but if explained well, it hits so hard. Absolutely. I think it's great. It's a great card. I mean, there's a reason it's still around, right? A lot of people who got into it clearly loved it. There's a reason it has such good retention among players. It could be so much more, though, in my opinion, if they just like stuck the other side of the landing. And I think looking at Pokemon definitely gets this on the opposite end for me. Pokemon is stupendously popular, but the card game, instead of being innovative and having a really cool combo-y stuff you can do like in Yu-Gi-Oh, is much more restrictive, which makes it much more new player friendly and have a much easier time bringing new players in. But Pokemon already excelled at that. I feel like you kind of got it reversed. Pokemon should be really complicated so people have something to latch onto, and Yu-Gi-Oh should be simpler so that way the big fans in the anime can have some easy point into the game. I do appreciate how much Master Duel highlights the archetype aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh! I also do think the archetype aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh! Isn't mentioned in this video a single time. Did he talk about archetypes at all? He said Sword Soul, I think, but I don't think he even mentioned what a Yu-Gi-Oh! Archetype is, which is something that literally every single player is going to have to learn immediately. The Pokemon card game is a snooze fest when it's nice to look at. This is the thing, right? Like, if they didn't make it a snooze fest, imagine how popular it would be. The same with Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, if Yu-Gi-Oh! Was really easy to get into, can you imagine how much more popular it would be? It would be crazy, right? You know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Mechanics haven't changed a ton since 2020, but like they've changed so much in the past, and because a lot of people try to use previous formats to try to explain the game to people, it gets way, way more difficult to teach people because you have to teach them a new set of rules when they come to the modern game after you teach them like Hat or whatever. The problem with most Yu-Gi-Oh! Tutorials, I think, is sometimes they forget they're having to make a video for people who have zero investment going into the game. Yes, this is very true. Like, if you're a new person going to the game, that's why this video could have been really good too, because this video, A, will convince you why to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And B, tell you how to do it. And it just doesn't convincingly do either of those, in my opinion. It tells you why Yu-Gi-Oh! Is popular and explains why a lot of people play it, but that reads to me more of a justification for MBT's existence as a Yu-Gi-Oh! Content creator and player. That's why he has the other people on who are of similar ilk to him. But I don't need to be justified why you exist. You already exist. You should be fine with that. I need to be justified as a new person or as someone else watching the video why I should join you. Right? Like, that's what is important as the viewer, not as the person creating the content. And then, you know, the whole like tutorial thing not being relevant to the modern game is something that we've been over before plenty of times. Because I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh! Player amongst nerds, I adapt to how things in a non-TCG sense, non-nerdy sense. You have to teach them from a non-TCG perspective. Like, if you're teaching a Magic player how to play Yu-Gi-Oh!, you have a lot to pull on. But if you're playing a person who's never played a card game before and your first card game to teach them is Yu-Gi-Oh! Is extremely difficult. Talking from experience. I can play Hot Birdman Robot with some Dragon. Yeah, no, it's... This is why I'm glad I did this stream. I'm glad with you guys talking about this stuff, because this is the really thing I wanted to get out of my head in the video, and I don't know if I exactly executed on it because I didn't want to make it just about this MBT video. I want to talk about Simo's video as well, and being like the 3-minute version, which I think is an intelligent way to go about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Problem. Because Yu-Gi-Oh! Is so big, just make a basic tutorial, teach you the basic rules, and then go like, this is just scratching the surface. You're going to have to figure out the rest on your own. That's fine, because then you'll know how to do it. But like, having to learn the basics from a video and then have the video basically tell you, now you need real life experience, go out in person and talk to a real person about how to play the game and get into the community. Like, you should be able to learn the game before getting into the community, and the community should draw you in on those merits. You shouldn't need to be drawn in by the community first and then learn the game from that point, even though I'm sure that happens tons. And that happens with tons of community. That's honestly probably why most people get into the game, is because they have a friend who plays. I mean, that's how I got into card games and stuff. But that shouldn't be the default, especially in the year 2025 when we have online clients that you can play at home for free. rather than teach how to play. Better teach how to properly read Yu-Gi-Oh, which is important. It sounds like we need to set up some sort of duel academy. A duel academy. That sounds familiar. Anyone know any duel academy style things? Anyone ever heard of anything like this? Anyone familiar with such a concept? Something interesting to think about. Yeah, MST, like a lot of the ruling details is like important stuff to put into your tutorial, and I think in an advanced tutorial that would be really good, but like it feels weirdly out of place here. Like, I don't know if it was just my vibe coming away from this video, but a lot of this video felt like more justification than learning. Rather than teach you of where Yu-Gi-Oh came from, this video morphed into like, hey, a lot of people wonder, why do I play Yu-Gi-Oh? How could anyone enjoy this? Why are you a Yu-Gi-Oh content creator? Why do these people play this game? And this is like, here's all the things that like, here, it's popular. People love it. People love the Head of Exodia and like the anime and all this stuff. And then like, it's kind of feeling like you don't need to do that. Like, you know those answers, and people will find out those answers if they look for them. But if you're coming to the video to actually learn either how to play the game or why to play the game, this video doesn't provide either of those. This sucks for teaching people and then more explaining why people like Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah. And explaining why people like Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a fine thing to make your video on. You should title your video that, why people like Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's fine. But this video says, A, that he wants to explain how to, and B, that he wants to make you a fan as well. And I just can't imagine anyone watching this video and then becoming a fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, if you have a friend who plays Yu-Gi-Oh!, maybe you'll call them and talk to them about this video, and then you'll become a fan. But if you're just a random guy, there's no way this video is making you want to play Yu-Gi-Oh!, is it? I mean, it's well made. Maybe that'll make you interested if you're just interested in well-made content. I mean, obviously, it's really well edited, created, scripted video. MBT's got a great voice. Yu-Gi-Oh! Gooner game is kind of true nowadays, at least for Master Duel. Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh's got a lot of that. There's a lot of the reason why my dad didn't want me playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, I loved Yu-Gi-Oh!, but like both the crowd of people being strange in a lot of ways, which is true in all card games, but it was more present, at least in my local Yu-Gi-Oh! Community. And then the cards having like raunchy artwork and stuff, and then like Magic had some raunchy artwork, and they like backed away from that stuff, whereas Yu-Gi-Oh! Has gone more towards that, or at least hasn't stopped going towards that over the years. Yeah, Master Duel has its own ton of problems. Need a tutorial on how to spell gems. Oh my god, I remember trying to look that up for Master Duel. Oh, such a pain. Why can't you just let me put the money into the machine? Video and this stream is crash out and false advertising. I'm not crashing. Okay, I'm crashing out a little. Because it's not false advertising. Like, he doesn't completely miss the mark. It's not that wrong. I'm more just crashing out because this was such a great opportunity. Big channel, well edited, beautiful video, and it just doesn't do the thing it said on the tin. Like, I distinctly remember my first time watching it. I got to the end of the video here. Like, I got to this ending part, and then the screen cuts to black, and I'm like, now we get to the real tutorial, right? And then the video ends. I'm like, no! Why aren't you going to teach you how to play the game? Yu-Gi-Oh! Needs to come up with a rival to Pokemon Pocket. What do you think about that? I think that would be a great idea. Is having anime girls being raunchy? Not always, but some of them are. It depends on the way the art is made. And I think you can tell by a lot of the actions by Konami and other people that that's kind of the direction they want to, like, they want to skirt that edge, which is a little strange. But yeah, I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Having a casual mode, I talk about that in my video too, whereas like Commander is not, Professor Tolarian Community College, if you don't know, just recently posted a video about how Commander is a really bad way to teach new players how to play the game, which is true. But Commander has the one silver bullet that makes it okay to teach new players to play the game. And that's with, you play Commander for your first time with your friends, and they're going to go easy on you. And because it's a multiplayer format, it's really easy to go easy on you. Just don't attack that guy and then tell them what to do. And you can spend time as a new player kind of spectating a game. You can watch the game going on. You have your little parts that you put in, and you can see, like how different things interact when you like maybe cast a removal spell on the thing, or play a creature, or play a board wipe, or whatever. Like, you can kind of see from afar, which is a good way to teach new players. And that's definitely not Duel Links. Duel Links was an okay way to teach people how to play the game in that kind of aspect, but like, it's still a competitive 1v1 at the end of the day. So if your opponent is better than you, and you are new to the game and don't really know what you're doing, you're still just going to get clapped. And have to learn from watching your opponent beat you down over and over again. Commander is a lot longer. There's 3 players. You have more time to read the cards and understand the cards. And because Commander is only playable in person, you can just ask. And because it's a casual game, everyone will always just explain it to you. Whereas in Yu-Gi-Oh, if you play against someone in Yu-Gi-Oh, and if they want to be a dick and take advantage of you, they just can. And there's nothing you can really do to stop them. In Commander, if you do that, they're going to kick you out of the play group. Duel Links is terrible for collecting, which I think is a big aspect of Pocket. That is also true. I would say that's the whole aspect of Pocket, actually. That's like kind of the main thing they were going for and succeeded at. Was they made a lot of really nice looking cards and a great way to collect them, and it was free. Like, that's the important thing to do. I do wonder if Yu-Gi-Oh had a better collection aspect. That's a large part of Master Duel, to my understanding, which is also a mobile game, I suppose. But, like, I wonder if they could do something like that. It would make more sense. Pokemon Pocket sets the formula for Yu-Gi-Oh! Just have to follow. That is true. I do think it would definitely, if they made a more casual version of Yu-Gi-Oh! That was like Pocket, where you had the basics of like how to play the game, and then could slowly ramp up into more modern games, but not quite get there. You'd have to go to Master Duel or whatever to play that. And it had a collection aspect. It could definitely do numbers for both halves. I don't feel like Konami's really willing to do that kind of thing. I think they played their hand pretty clearly when they made Master Duel way after Arena had already been made. Yeah. The actual gameplay of Pocket is kind of mid. It's extremely mid in my opinion. I mean, it's different, but like it's not great. It's all about just the getcha pulling packs at midnight. Yu-Gi-Oh! Isn't really a game for collectors since there's so many characters on cards. Pokemon has 10,000 of the same guy over and over again. That is true, but it kind of depends for Pokemon, right? Like, there's a lot of the same guy, but there's 1,000 different Pokemon, and a lot of them don't get that many printings. I still remember the distinct fact that Mantike has 2 printings in the whole game because they couldn't figure out how baby Pokemon worked. So they just, like, made one and then just said, we're not touching that with a 10-foot pole. I don't know how to make that Pokemon. So they just, like, never made it. How many different Sky Striker cards are there? Like, it's all the same character, right? Like, they're different cards, they do different things, but there's, like, a lot of cards with Ray on it, right? Like, you can... That's like a meaningful amount of players who just like want to collect as many rays as they can or whatever, right? Yu-Gi-Oh! Has so much potential as an IP. Absolutely. Can you imagine if I gave you a time machine and said you can go back to the era where Pokemon is on TV and you can put an anime right next to Pokemon and be like as popular as Pokemon? How powerful could it be? Pokemon is the most profitable media franchise of all time, and the video games suck. Nowadays, right? But for a long time, they were hit after hit after hit. They made a million games, and the card game, and anime, and manga, and like they were just firing on all cylinders. And in that time, Yu-Gi-Oh! Just didn't. They really just missed a lot of points. I think Duel Links was a sign that they could have done way more with that. I still remember getting into Duel Links when it came out originally. It was incredible. I had my friends who had never played Yu-Gi-Oh! Before or had only played Yu-Gi-Oh! On the playground with me when we were kids coming to me and going like, hey, have you tried Duel Links? This game's great. You want to play it? And then, because we were kids, we got priced out because it was not cheap to get playable cards in there. And also it incentivizes grinding a lot. So eventually everyone just dropped it. But for those few months, it was a big deal. Yu-Gi-Oh! Could easily be a go if they just branched out again. Yeah. I feel like the Pokemon game sucks. Narrative reminded someone. True, yep. Yeah, I do think having different cards over and over again is more exciting, especially because Yu-Gi-Oh! Archetypes, I think, does a really good job for collecting specifically. Like, a lot of archetypes have, like, specific different slots that are filled by different things, like Black Wings or, like, the different colored things. Like, I mean, Gadgets is the very basic example of this. Like, you have a different color of each one, and then you have different versions of each one, and then, like, it levels up. Like, there's a lot of building you can do that doesn't have you collecting one specific guy. It's like having a bunch of different Pokemon evolutionary trees that you can branch out with, and they're all equally cool because they don't have like one that comes before the other one if you don't have to. Like, there's so many options. Also, I don't want to talk too much about Yu-Gi-Oh! Lore because it's gonna make me sad that Magic the Gathering lore is dead, even though it's always been crap. IMO. But even though it's always been bad, it's had a soft spot in my heart, and I'm sad that now I'm just going to have to care about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or whatever. Alas. remember being so surprised that Pokemon came out on top for card value when Yu-Gi-Oh was far better. That's when I found out about card collecting as a business. Yeah, a lot of people collect Pokemon cards. I think a lot of people would collect Yu-Gi-Oh cards too if they put more work into that aspect. I mean, it had the anime at the same time, but I think because they didn't do it early on, especially a particularly large amount, it simply wasn't. It just wasn't a focus for them. Yeah, Pokemon has the game, anime, and TCG in a loop, and Yu-Gi-Oh does not benefit from that. Yeah, they could. They could. They have the anime. They had video games that were popular and successful. It's not like they didn't have the tools. They just failed to execute on the same level that Pokemon did. I'm just going to be playing some Magic. Thanks for stopping by out of character. Sorry if I made you mad. Just my opinion piece. You don't got to agree with it. If anything, you should not agree with it, so you can make a cool video about it. For content. But yeah, no. Thanks for stopping by. I'm just going to be playing some Magic before head off to bed. Still got work tomorrow, so. Just going to be chilling out here for probably another 30 minutes. And then I'll be hitting the road. Pokemon games are more popular than ever. Absolutely. They cashed in on a lot of their benefits. I am so mad. I am so mad. He's going to bed seething with rage. I am angry. Be angry. Let the hate flow through you. No. Thanks, that characters. Alright, let's play a little bit of Magic here. Try to keep chatting along here. Dragon Link is one of my favorite decks. Yeah, early Yu-Gi-Oh is like way easier for people to understand and play. I don't think it's remotely close. Yeah, it's a way easier to make people play Yu-Gi-Oh early on. That is another point that I made in my video too. That like early Yu-Gi-Oh is like much easier to explain and teach to new people, and because they really just never removed anything, it only got harder and harder as the years went on. Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh did definitely get like better over time, but getting harder to explain is something that obviously happened too at the same time, right? Not that that's a bad thing. It can be hard to explain. That's fine. I want to accumulate wisdom here, but I really want to bounce the monument. I think I can't. I just gotta go like this. Okay, well, if we don't die, probably win. The card pool made that, yeah. Not having rotation makes it a lot easier for the game to be crap, because you just can't remove entire mechanics on their own. And it leads to a lot of things like counter traps ending up in your tutorial video that just like don't matter for modern Yu-Gi-Oh almost at all. It's kind of frustrating they killed Time Wizard. Extremely frustrating they killed Time Wizard. I get that you like wanted to do Genesis or whatever, but like you didn't need to kill Time Wizard to do that, bro. You could have just left it alone. Would have been fine. Am I getting another turn here? Maybe. We're gonna find out. Yeah, the card pool gets bigger and bigger. It'll never get any smaller, which makes everything harder and harder to explain. It's the fate of every TCG, but like, you can do things to sidestep that. Like, it doesn't have to be the fate of every TCG. It's only really the fate of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because Yu-Gi-Oh! Refuses to implement rotation or anything along those lines to help sidestep the issue. Double boomerang, I suppose. I'm just yapping at this point. Nah, that's what the stream is for, bro. We're at the yapping portion of the stream where I've gone through all the stuff I want to say, and now I'm just playing card games and, you know. Can I bring up Bakugan? I miss it. I don't even know if they had a TCG. The Bakugan TCG? I'm pretty sure it did. That's a Kodak posting thing if I've ever seen it. I don't know if you guys know Kodak. I didn't watch him for a long time because I found his voice really annoying. But he makes good content and he talks about a lot of important stuff. Definitely worth a watch, that channel, if you don't know. The longer Yu-Gi-Oh goes on, the less I feel rotation should happen. I mean, it's way too late now. If you were gonna do rotation, you should have done rotation years ago. It's definitely too late now. I am not drawing the thing. I've gone through like almost half my deck and I haven't done a single monument. Maybe they should have made a different game, like early Go format in the mid years, a modern format. Like making a version of modern for Yu-Gi-Oh! That would make a lot of sense. Like making modern the way Magic does. I feel like that would be a very obvious thing to do. Like some more, like they're really missing anything in the middle. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is either like FGC full combo, maximum difficulty, Final Destination, Fox only level of difficulty, or it's like baby kindergarten preschool mode. I feel like there should be something in the in-between part there. Mayhaps. Rotation would have had to be implemented in a separate format. I think that would also make a lot of sense if they had a different... I mean, I feel like that's what Time Wizard was kind of supposed to be, and what Genesis is kind of supposed to be. They're toying with these ideas, for sure. It's also tough for Yu-Gi-Oh! Because Magic has had rotation for a long time, meaning that they can design modern sets at a lower power level, like Avatar or whatever, so that way they can kind of like nowadays it's been raised to the power level of how good cards feel in Commander, but it still like sits at a baseline level where it makes sense to print cards that are weaker for Standard, and then you can have specific effects or stuff that are powerful in modern formats. But because Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't have that, it's a little bit hard to put the toothpaste back in the tube, if you know what I mean. Yeah, you definitely need to be able to come with having to read the whole essay. The essayness of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is definitely not high on the list of things I like about it. Their approach is to retrain/remake. Yeah, but none of that ever powers the game down or brings anything into a direction of making more sense. So it only gets harder from there. Yeah, it's at the win of the OCG too, which is also, I mean, obviously that's a lot of the problem. But the OCG is Konami, so like, you know, that's kind of just the way it is. It would be interesting if they made formats that felt like the older formats of the game, but had like modern cards in it. I wish they would print cards for that kind of effect. The game was hype ASF early on for reasons. I mean, I think the reasons are pretty obvious. I wish MBT explained them in the video. I'm harping on him too much. I gotta get off this. I'm too in the weeds. MST negate. Classic MST negates. Right. Alright, if I pass the turn back to him, he just kills me. I need to find a way to level up the talent here somehow. I don't think Yu-Gi-Oh! Cares about going back to relevancy. It's kind of like Wizards 101 where they already have and they don't care about the modern day relevancy. I don't think that's true. I'm pretty sure Yu-Gi-Oh! Still cares about remaining relevant. I mean, they still want to make money, right? It'd be weird if they didn't. It's pretty clear that they still care. Do OCG players reminisce about how Yu-Gi-Oh used to be? It's a good question. I don't know. I don't know any OCG players, so I wouldn't be the one to ask. I assume they would. Maybe not about the way that things used to be, but like about like how the game is now, perhaps. It's a tough question, actually. I don't really know how they feel about it. I know they like Maxi. And they feel like the people in the West like hate Maxi for no reason. I heard that one before. Want to look quite sure? Probably not. Got a Grand, got the Pierce. Just go on these. Konami didn't want you to be relevant. They wouldn't have developed Master Duel. Yeah. Well, I mean, they could have developed Master Duel just because they wanted to squeeze more money out of the player base, and that's it. But I think every company would like their game to be relevant. Like, why wouldn't you want your game to have more popularity and therefore make you more money, right? Like, that's always the goal. It's just whether or not you hit that. So many TCGs are trying to benefit from the bubble. Konami. Yeah, long term they'll be fine because they haven't tried to squeeze the bubble super hard. But I think most card games don't do that. At least the established ones like Magic and Pokemon. Like, they're taking advantage of it, but they're not like betting everything they have on it, which helps them a lot, I think. That's why I'm always skeptical whenever I see the people talking about the new card games they have and stuff. I'm like, talk to me in 2 years. Personally, I love 2009 Beyond Yu-Gi-Oh! Still feel this format actually played them. Wishing they stay the same power level as before. Yeah. There's something to be said about the power level. It's not that I don't like the current power level of Yu-Gi-Oh! There's something fun about it for sure. I just wish that there was a way to go back. That's what Time Wizard kind of was. But like, because they haven't set up any tools for them to make a modern-esque format or something that is of a similar power level to draft, like there's really no way. Like, if you want to play an old version of Yu-Gi-Oh!, your only option was Time Wizard, and is now to literally just find someone who plays the old version of Yu-Gi-Oh! And to play it with them. Like, you really have no recourse, which sucks. They don't like Maxi either. Where'd you get that idea? Oh, I just heard that was something that was said. That might be totally wrong. I'm just, like I said, I don't know any OCG players, so I'm just spitballing. I would understand if they hate Maxi, because I also hate Maxi. Who doesn't hate Maxi? I can do it like this, right? Yeah. Go here and go here. Click the client. This. World's player saying he prefers the format without sexy. Yeah, see, this makes sense to me. With Genesis being success, I do think draft could be the next bet. I would love to see draft. Yu-Gi-Oh! Draft would be really cool. It would be hard because, once again, the game isn't set up in a way that to make draft particularly workable, but they could make it work. They could do the thing. I think I just said, let's go. A Yu-Gi-Oh! Draft set would be so hyped. They've tried it before, and then it didn't work out for them for whatever reason. Which makes me sad, too. It would be so cool. From my understanding, it's basically just a necessary evil. Indifference to Maxi, I just don't like the reason you give Maxi for being banned built variety decks. Is there any other TCGs where you can win on your first turn? Yes. There's plenty of TCGs where you can win on your first turn. Like Magic, you can win on your first turn for sure. It just depends on the format. Like, Magic has different formats to make it less of an issue. Master Duel event is pretty much a draft set. I mean, I guess, but it's not like you pick the cards from the options on the Master Duel games. It's not, you don't get them at random, you just get a deck at random, but it's not like the same. Turn Zero gameplay is the future of Yu-Gi-Oh! I do agree with that, but I mean, that worries me on a more existential level. Like, where's the end? Like, if you're just always playing on turn 0, then like, there's nowhere left for the game really to go from that point. Like, everything will have to reach that power level, and then you just are capped at a ceiling. It'll definitely squeeze design space. Would you say Pokemon TCG is the most balanced? Oh, almost certainly. Turn 0 stuff is fun for sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a reason so many people play it. Like it's fun. I don't think anyone will tell you it isn't fun. But just because it's like, you can have unbalanced things be fun, and that makes a lot of sense too. But like, as the Yu-Gi-Oh designers, you want to have more wiggle room. And if you make it turn 0, unless you do a massive thing to walk it back, which will disappoint a lot of people who like it, you're kind of pinning yourself. And I don't really trust the Yu-Gi-Oh designers to work themselves out of it. I mean, they've gotten this far without doing that, so like, you know, a little risque. Yeah, Pokemon TCG is definitely the most balanced, but it's also the most boring, which is, you know, part of the reason because it's the most balanced. But like, you got to strike a balance between how powerful things are and how fun things are. Tier format was my favorite in the recent history of high power formats. A lot of people like tier format, which makes sense to me. I see why. Should have kept in the Iros thing. Yeah, need for multiple formats, they can't go back. Yeah, they can't really go back. I still think they could make new formats, though. Like, in terms of actually how to design your game, they're kind of past the point where that's a movable thing in my mind. But, like, you don't have to make new cards that don't power up the game without... You can still make new formats, make specific ban lists, have different versions of things, have, like, side packs or whatever. Like, there's a lot of options still available to them. Does MTG have typing advantage concept like Pokemon? I mean, they have colors. Like, it works differently in every game. Colors in Magic work very differently than the colors, like, in Pokemon, for example. Like, it matters a lot less in Pokemon. Pokemon strikes me as an interesting balance between Yu-Gi-Oh! And other versions of card games, like Magic, for example. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the far end. Magic Standard is, like, the close end. Which makes it feel kind of like Pokemon is like the middle ground-ish. Like, Pokemon isn't quite as fast as Legacy, but also isn't quite as slow as Standard. It's like kind of a middle ground. They're just still really not, I guess, like what would you guys say is the closest thing to Yu-Gi-Oh! Levels of power, but not Yu-Gi-Oh! Proper? I mean, I guess right now it's probably Genesis. But I love games where I have an action, my opponent then has another action. Yeah, me too. That's why I love Magic so much. Acting and reacting is a lot of fun. was this? I think so. I love games. Yeah, like in a different card game. I guess Genesis is probably the closest, and you compare to other Yu-Gi-Oh formats, I suppose. It's kind of close, but in terms of another card game that's close to Yu-Gi-Oh, there's not many I can think of. Magic is a game where you react and act based on different things, but there is a lot more just slamming in Magic than Yu-Gi-Oh, to be fair. Yu-Gi-Oh, you're almost always trying to act, but the problem is because the game's so fast, a lot of the time, the best thing to do is stop your opponent from being able to do that. Like, don't let your opponent do the fun part of your game. He's got a counter. I honestly wish Magic had more count. He's the guy. We found him. Classic Shadowverse tried to bring Yu-Gi-Oh effects to Hearthstone gameplay and it got complicated very fast. Yeah, that's the other thing. You got to be careful not to make it too complicated too quickly, especially in Yu-Gi-Oh style formats where it's really easy to go off the edge quite quick. All right, let's. This deck requires so much thinking. Let's play a game of Arboread and best one. Yeah, there's a Yu-Gi-Oh definitely struck a chord with a lot of people. There's clearly something going on there that they could have capitalized on better. I'm still hopeful. Genesis is definitely a step in the right direction. If they keep walking in the direction towards just copying things that worked for Magic in a way like Canadian Highlanders stuff, I think they could end up in a place where Yu-Gi-Oh is actually has a way to play the game that is different from Modern and is also fun. I hated the mana system. I go to pass being mana screwed or flooded. That's just me, though. That's a lot of people. Don't worry. It's not just you. A lot of people hate getting flooded and screwed, and that's the worst part of the game to them. And actually extremely justified. If you hate that, I stand by you. For sure. I think it'd be kind of stupid not to. I should play the Botanical. I feel like a Yu-Gi-Oh grew up playing turn 0 plays. Poor balancing Master Duel, the treatment of Western players, second-class players, and the better Yu-Gi-Oh players made me give up. Yeah, I feel a lot of those things. Definitely feel a lot of those things. Having Yu-Gi-Oh's got a lot of things that make it hard to play. Deadly. Land system is a bug that becomes a feature. It's a bug that they worked into being a feature, which I think is quite cool. Like, obviously, if they could go back, they would change the way it works. I don't think anyone will argue differently than that. But the fact that they've made it work is something to be admired. Do you like Slay the Spire? I love Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire is one of my favorites. Are you excited for Slay the Spire 2? It's coming out next year. I'm real hyped. I played a disgusting amount of Slay the Spire, to be frank. They might have stayed. I had a friend who was excited to try playing Yu-Gi-Oh again. Came into Master Duel and found they had no game they recognized and gave up. I wish Master Duel had other formats. Yeah, formats are a lifesaver for Magic. I mean, I definitely wouldn't be playing Magic this long if there weren't limited and standard and modern and like so many different options. Like, this is the reason I still stick with it. And if you hate lands, I agree with you. You should try Hearthstone, which has its own issues. Every game, there's no perfect game. We all know this, but like, Yu-Gi-Oh is like really far and could be way closer if they just like did things that made obvious sense to a lot of people in the community. Like, talk to them. Don't make your new player friends play Dueling Book. Please just give them something like Omega. Omega's way easier, yeah, for sure. Honestly, if you're trying to get someone into Yu-Gi-Oh, it's a tall ask. I would probably just try to teach them normally, but like, you know, obviously that's how everyone would want to be taught, but like sometimes that's not in the cards, right? Duel Master has the best mana system. Kodak viewer, I see. I do like Duel Master system. It is good. I think there's a reason it's not popular in the West, though. But it is good, for sure. It's a elegant solution, I will say. You lost them. Yeah. I mean, it only takes one bad experience with media to be like, yeah, no, this is clearly not for me. And then they're sworn off forever, and you're like, no. Duel Masters is cool. Very cool. Very interesting. I'm glad it's still going. At least not in America, but you know, you get the idea. Still around. It's really hard to get people to use that. That's the main reason why I felt so bad about the video. If it was easier to get people in, it would be perfect, but alas. I'm gonna make up a Floodgate player and Floodgates who likes True Jaco. That's a good way to get them to learn the game, but like it's might not be the way they want to play the game, right? Like what if it's just not satisfying to them to play Floodgates? What if they want to engage with the rest of the game? Kind of stuff, you know? That's the tough part. Does he have a lesson in here? He does. He's two. Oh, it's gonna be so rough if he has the thing. I don't think I can not go for it though. Just not that kind of deck. I'm 16 and have a better comprehension of Yu-Gi-Oh cards than school. That's because Yu-Gi-Oh cards are fun. Like, school sucks. I always hated school when I was in it. College was better, but still not the best. It really depends on your teachers, to be honest. If your teachers are good, school is actually pretty good. But I had a lot of shitty teachers in my time, so made school a lot less bearable. Teacher? Kind of disappointed by the MTV. You were right. It's more of a why than a how-to video. Yeah. That's the big thing that disappointed me. And the other part that disappointed me was it's solely a video the Yu-Gi-Oh community needs. Like, they really should have how to play the game video. I think anyone who plays the game would tell you such a thing. But they don't. What? Okay, where you got it. Until a few years ago, like 2 decades, the out of TCG flavor was the anime. Yeah. I mean, the anime still kind of is the thing for Yu-Gi-Oh! If you ask me. It's still riding off of that. I mean, it's a premier spot to sit. Do you think Yu-Gi-Oh! Has become the worst card game in terms of the prices of cards and tournament prizes? Well, tournament prizes has always been the case because they don't give out money for some reason, which makes it a real pain in the ass when you just get like a Switch or whatever for winning. Like, it's annoying. It's not the worst. They've worked their ways around it. But in terms of prizing, it's not great. I don't know if you guys... I saw a tweet on an MT video going over the Twitter reviews where it's a picture of the Pokemon World Championship for the card game, and there's like a massive stage. There's a huge Jumbotron screen where you can see all the cards that are getting played. They have like a light up floor that showcases whenever they play their monster or their Pokemon into the active zone. That showcases everything. It looks super cool and badass. And then the Yu-Gi-Oh one is like they're just sitting at a table. Just 2 guys sitting at a table with a camera. Like, there's just nothing special about it. And I'm like, yeah, this goes to show which one had more, you know, actual work poured into it. Even though Yu-Gi-Oh is the better game, IMO. They made major improvements this year? Oh, absolutely. They've made a lot of big improvements to Yu-Gi-Oh this year. That's definitely true. I mean, it's been worse, but like, here's the thing. Yu-Gi-Oh has been having a lot of issues for a really long time. And I think that they could easily fix them and make the game twice as good. So taking the steps in the right direction is reassuring and hopeful, but they're still going to have to go a long ways before I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh! Is sitting in a similar spot to Pokemon and Magic in terms of game design and new player abilities. Because the complexity of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a good thing, but the cost they've paid is really big. Konami has been killing it lately. They have been, like Master Duel obviously needs a lot of improvements. We can all agree that there's a lot of problems, but at least a lot of the changes they made lately. Genesis? More of this, please. More Genesis. I don't like the fact that they killed Time Wizard. I'm glad you're trying to fix the time rules. It's not a great solution, but it's better than what you had before. I'm happy about the fact that, you've gone ahead and you've decided to print cards that don't make me want to, blow my brains out. Less maxing stuff. Malcharmy is a good step in the right direction. Having, these new archetypes are a good steps in the right direction. They're walking towards something more reasonable. Yu-Gi-Oh! Couldn't control power creep. Well, I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Tapped into the power creep too much. But I think the other thing is Yu-Gi-Oh! Was just way too scared of the audience. When they talk to the audience and the audience doesn't like it, stop talking to the audience. Oh, we made this new board say, oh, you guys don't like the board? Okay, we'll change the board again. Oh, you don't like this new board? Oh, we'll change it again. Links, you can do whatever you want now. They just always back down from decisions, which is a sign that you probably didn't do enough testing with the decision in the first place to see if people would actually like it. And you don't always have to do that, but you should either test it enough so that way you're confident that if some people don't like it, it's fine, but not everyone is going to dislike your decision, or that you're going to go with a decision that people don't like anyway, but is going to be better for the health of the game long term, so you just muscle through it. You're just look, I know that this decision sucks and people don't want to see the fact that their decks are no longer playable, but we needed to do this to bring the power level down. That Pokemon did that before, and I think it's one of the strongest things that keeps the card game balanced today, is that there was one point where things were getting too strong, and they said, nope, all of those cards are rotating out early, you're no longer allowed to play with those. Weaker cards now. Everyone thought they killed time zones and implement time travel into Master only for there to be nothing. That is true. Why did they kill it? Was this for Genesis, I assume? But it's impossible to tell. There was no reason for them to kill Time Wizard. It is also crazy, Time Wizard reminds me a lot of Commander, right? Because Time Wizard wasn't really a thing Konami was planning on doing, and then, a lot of content creators and people, hyped it up, and were oh, this is one of the greatest things they've done. I love playing tournaments with old cards, blah, 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 all this stuff. And they just kind of, went with it. They were right to be afraid. The Konami saw huge before released. Oh, yeah, definitely. Link shock. Here's the thing. Yes, you're going to suffer a bunch of people leaving the game and quitting because you make a poor decision. But, what you have to do is they kind of got the worst of both worlds. Let's say they make that change, but they still, as designers, decide, okay, sure, links suck. People are quitting. People can't play their decks that they like anymore. This is a necessary change for the health of the game. So we're going to lose those people, and we're going to hope to bring them back with a new, better game later. Or bring in new people that will love the game more because we have fixed it by adding this new rule. Or you can go, this rule is going to piss too many people off. We can't afford to lose that much money from it. Back down now. But you should make that decision before making the thing, because then all the people who left, and then they made the rule change back, some of them come back, but some of them don't. And also, this whole decision causes more problems with power creep that you were planning on making anymore, because you probably printed cards with this in mind. And then, because you're a physical card game, you can't errata them or change it anyway. So, they kind of did the worst possible option. Step one, implement a bad change. Everyone hates it. Then you walk it back. It's the worst possible way to do it. You don't walk it back? That's fine. Maybe it was needed for the game. You don't listen to the community feedback? That's fine. You don't have to listen to community feedback if you think that's what's best for the game. You probably should have gotten that into place beforehand. But, that's the first thing you should probably do before you make a big change, is, ask the community about how it is. And then you can also just, not make a bad change in the first place, obviously. But, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is in such a weird position with all the people pleasing. I think the retrains of Blue Eyes and stuff and all of this, legacy support is the place where they've found, okay, this works, and they're going to keep repeating that over and over again. But, there's a lot of other ways I think they could do it by, making a middle ground format. Something that Yu-Gi boomers will enjoy playing, but also, can lead into regular Yu-Gi-Oh! There should be some, transitionary period. So that way you can kind of, bring people up. That's kind of how I feel like Magic was. Like, first you play Standard, then you play Modern, then you play Legacy. And they put one in the middle. They like put Pioneer, and they have Limited as an early one if you want. Like, there's like a progression you can go where the game gets more and more complicated with more and more cards, and you'll slowly learn over time. Like, you know, I recognize this card from the previous format I played, even though it's in a different context here. Like, you have that. Whereas Yu-Gi-Oh, like, if you go from Time Wizard to the modern game, you're just going to not recognize anything except for, like, I don't know, is there a single card that's played in GOAT that is still played in modern Yu-Gi-Oh? Is Feather Duster legal? Monster Reborn, maybe? Like, there's not much. Is there a reason why the magic card in your channel is backwards? No, please, you can't do this to me. I'm a professional YouTuber. This, no. There's no way that's right. That can't be right. It's backwards? It's been backwards the whole time? There's no way. I'm going to my channel right now to check. The fuck is this? Oh my god, you're right, it is backwards. Oh well, the Hearthstone one is backwards too. It's like mirrored. So we'll call it intentional. YouTuber TM. No, it's intentional. See, the Hearthstone one is also flipped. Like, the Hearthstone one's supposed to be reversed. I guess I could flip them if I wanted to. But it's fine, because they're on the right. I feel like Commander is the worst place to start learning Magic. Yes. So, it depends. Commander is really bad if you're just going to play with strangers, or if you don't know the people you're playing with that well, and they're not good at teaching you. If you are with friends who are good at teaching card games, Commander is a fine way to do it. Because it's social, and you'll have lots of time in the game to explain things and ask questions, and you can play like a starting commander deck or whatever with everyone else, and you can all slowly learn the game together. That kind of stuff works. Same as like a D&D or whatever. If you're all getting into D&D, it's good to start with a fresh group of everyone, and then like the DM that knows everything explains everything to you slowly over time. Those kind of things work well. Without that social aspect, though, it is definitely way worse than just like playing Standard Limited and figuring it out that way. I've been watching for 8 months and just noticed it. Yeah, I never noticed it either. It's my channel, so I don't blame you. It's great if you're joining a friend and bad if you're joining strangers. Absolutely. I remember there were times I tried playing Commander with strangers. It's so awkward. Like, you can be, if you're with people who are cool, it works better, but like, you have the whole thing about talking about how powerful your deck is and figuring out like what is and isn't okay with everyone else. There's a lot of like human interaction that isn't present and if you just like know the people. Games go too long and are always drama/kin making. Yeah, that's a lot of it. All right, chat. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure talking to you all today. I'm glad you guys all showed up to the stream to have a Q&A with me and watch through the video with me. I think I got a lot off my chest that I needed to, and I'm glad that I feel like a lot of the chat, felt pretty good about it and agreed with me. So, I thought there would be a lot more of a hostile response to my video, I'll be honest, because I'm kind of, Arena is not as good as Master Duel, you're right, definitely. But I feel like a lot of people would have more of a negative response to my video, and I think I've gotten some of it, but the fact that a lot of people thought that my video was, had legs to stand on and felt a similar thing that I felt after watching the video, like, of it not being what was expected and how it really was supposed to fill a gap in the Yu-Gi-Oh community that I feel like still needs to be filled, especially now that this video has come out and it's really popular and leaves a space. I feel like, yeah, I feel like it's good. Thank you for being around. Do I stream a lot? Not too often. I had like a week-long stream that I did, I want to say like 4 months ago or so, and then I haven't really been streaming a ton since then. I'll see if there's more things I want to stream about, more videos that really, get my creative juices flowing and make me want to make more videos as such, or maybe there'll be a format I really want to show. If there's something cool on Master Duel, maybe I'll do that. A really cool Hearthstone thing, Magic, whatever. Like, if there's something really interesting, it's there. And we'll see about whether or not I want to. I did say at the end of my video that I may want to make my own Yu-Gi-Oh tutorial. It'll be quite the large undertaking, and it's something I'll probably have in the back of my mind for a while. But I'll give it some time to see if anyone comes out with something that's satisfying, and if not, I'll probably start working on it and seeing if I can't make something that's at least comparable for you understanding how to play the start of the game. I don't think I'm the best person for it because I'm not as engrossed in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, I play all the different card games, so just making one tutorial for Yu-Gi-Oh! Feels a little out of place for me. I would much rather like someone like Simu do it or whatever. They have a lot more, or like Farfa or something, making something like that, but yeah. We'll see. Time will tell. speaking about time, we're out of it. So thank you all for coming by the stream. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you all in the next live. Maybe if I do that, we'll try to get one. Maybe if not this month, the next month. I'm going to be busy with Christmas and stuff. And if not, I'll just hope you guys can tune in for my next video. A pleasure for watching. Thank you so much.